Yeah, he had requested it with all the back and forth. We both missed it in the preparation of the agenda.
Just put it under items for special consideration. Don't incorporate it into discussion so we can keep moving.
We'll do.
Okay. Right. That's fine. Well, we can just. Okay.
Also.
Okay, and I have no other changes. At this point in time, anybody else?
Just a point of order. I'm not sure who's controlling the television channel, but we're not on TV.
All right, that'd be Roger Connor. I'm just going to double check.
Wires crazy. Hello.
Looks like you're frozen there.
Everybody on? You hear me?
I can hear you, but you're breaking up.
I can hear you.
Okay. So, motion to adopt the agenda. In second, I guess.
Move it.
Okay. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, aye. Okay, the next item is a motion to acknowledge the minutes of the May 11th meeting, May 11, 2020. I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Am I coming through still broken up, or what's happening?
Occasionally you break up.
Okay. Because my signal is showing strong. Okay, well then I'll start, and hopefully it won't break up during the comments. Want to welcome everybody to the board meeting tonight, and want to thank everyone on this call, Zoom, and all those who have participated, and especially Jessica for helping to organize the Memorial Day event. I hope all of you watched it from beginning to end, because I found it to be a very good program, and want to remind any of our residents who may not have watched the video that was played at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It's I assume Jessica's still running out there for people to see on the website and other locations.
Yeah, it's available on demand on the Facebook page, and then it's replaying a couple times on the cable channel.
Okay.
I also added it on the homepage of the website as well, Dick.
Okay, thank you, Joey. Thank you very much. I wanted to mention that, as everyone has known, the numbers that have been coming in throughout the state, but particularly in the county for COVID-19, have been positive. As some of you may have heard the governor talk about today, the numbers related to hospitalizations are down. The rolling average is down. Intubations and number of new cases are down. And the county did qualify under the indicia, so that meant that today is our official first day of phase 1 reopening. As you are all aware, there are 4 phases. So this particular phase is one where we keep our fingers crossed, everybody does everything that's expected, then we can continue to roll along. We also have seen still a tragic point in the state of deaths that we've seen since they started recording numbers. The governor now says that we are outside of the curve, but in order to stay there, I think we want to continue to stay focused on the health safety requirements going forward. I want to really, again, thanks everybody, Will, all of the healthcare providers. I think also thanks to our own county folks that have been looking after us, from Marcus Molinaro, the county executive on down. They've been doing an excellent job. The regional control group for the people in our town, has continued, to meet. That's the one that really had worked very hard on our, destiny of being able to reopen. So as a result, Memorial Day is a pivot point for us in determining that we can start the phase one reopening. You know, the county executive and his team and our supervisors and mayors have all been working, together, to get us here today. A little bit frustrating at times, but I think we made some very good progress. And actually today, Supervisor D'Alessandro and I had a call with the county executive talking about municipal, reopenings. We're not yet there. We don't yet have the approvals. I think the county executive will be coming out with some guidelines, but are largely consistent with the guidelines that I've revised based on a variety of inputs, which are really in line with the county dates. So I think the key forward in order to continue to stay on this right path is to look at our such as masks, the sanitization, washing hands, keeping town hall clean. And I think the board and I and our staff have done a fine job in those shifting currents and then trying to stay ahead. We've had the regular meetings, regular discussions to really take care of addressing the ways that we can go about in the town to make this happen and longer cases that we have. Today, I have realized draft, as I mentioned, and sent off to you earlier in the afternoon, so some of you haven't had a chance to read it, of those protocols. The dates, as may still shift over in the future, are there in red and designed to really help give our staff some guidance going. There are a number of people concerned. There's 35 residents in the county really want at a time. Another 32 with care and addressing all the key issues. So 65 are still very much concerned about reopening. So I think the public will see us still, I hope, follow this approach going forward. And of course, as you've seen in our past board meetings, and you'll hear more tonight, the town board has been working hard to keep open and very active. Tonight there'll be discussion on some topics, particularly update by Tim Mood here on tri-municipal. We've had some discussions and I think gotten a the better is going to be the requirement for them to get their capacity levels to help us in the town meet our season. We'll talk about the new updated phone system that Keith is on the phone call. Keith Studd, been current phone system that because it's an integrated dinosaur. And I think we'll talk about other aspects of Jessica Fulton will report on the summer camp issues that we're facing and what other towns and villages are doing throughout the county. And we'll have some. I've been working with David Stolman and with Barbara and Tim Mood on some possible legislation, which actually just really completed today. I've sent to you, so it really is there for perhaps discussion, but relating to how to help our restaurants reopen in going forward. This is based on similar legislation that other towns are passing, such as Poughkeepsie, and Barbara and I, will discuss that further under, new business. We're looking at how to deal with the official green light. I know that with one third of the residents hopefully back to work. With this announcement, with manufacturing real or pick up some other help us. The bill, for phases 2, 3, and 4 will depend on how smart we are going forward. I think a number of us feel that it's possible to even be a little bit more aggressive under the right conditions than the 2 to 3 week average, which had been the general idea looking forward. So with everyone's help out here throughout the town, then I think that we all can get to the goal line, particularly wearing masks where you can't do the social distancing, washing your hands, sanitizing, and various elements of that nature. We'll also, continue to do, many things virtually, like this meeting. We'll look at once the town governments and other municipal governments are given the go-ahead to start holding public meetings in person, then we'll consider that, but that won't be probably for at least another few weeks at least. We'll more stay tuned. I think Jessica will soon be announcing some more virtual recreation and especially senior programs that are so important, and I'll come back to that a little bit later with respect to the senior center on one of the items we have further in the agenda. So I think that also Jessica will, she's created some guidelines for the Wappinger Unsung Heroes campaign that we approved the signs for, and the signs are printed, so we'll also come back to that during Jessica's discussion. On behalf of all of us, board, our staff, our elected officials, I really want to thank all the residents for your patience, understanding, and significant amount of cooperation. Actually, we've been receiving a lot of comments, and I think all positive. Almost all of them are very constructive that have, I think, helped us address some of the issues. I think we've immediately, shut down our inspection organization. We've immediately gotten out to look into issues where people have raised some concerns. I think some areas that we'll discuss a little bit more about under signs, but one or two of the areas that I know is frustrating to me a lot is the level of littering that we still see, especially a PPE out there. The town does have laws, that are not that easy to enforce, but if we see something, we will, that prohibit littering, especially of the kind that tends to be unsafe. So we want to encourage everyone to continue to be very conscientious about what you do with any trash and litter, but especially your PPE. So going forward, we, I think, are well positioned as a town. We'll be talking more about that to really help certainly our community come out of it. There will be pain and suffering continued, but we're here to try to really help you get through that. We've had good level of support at all levels of the county government. I think we've done a very good job, ranging from Bill has been really there on the front lines. I think Joey, dealing with Joey Cavazzini in the legislature, our other legislative officials with Donna Bolner and Lisa Paoloni have been also quite helpful in addition to myself, and then our consultants have been working it through their various channels. So I believe that we're really have been out there in the forefront fighting this battle, the best we can. But again, thank you for all your support. Please keep coming in with those questions, answers, comments. We very much welcome it, this level of participation in these difficult times. So thank you very much for all that. And I want to open, if any of our board members would like to make a comment to our community, particularly to also their residents in their wards, please jump in at this time. You raise your hand and then I'll recognize you. Anybody? Okay. Well, thanks. And so what we'll do now is we'll go to the public portion of the meeting, and I'll ask the town clerk, Mr. Paoloni, have you received any comments, questions relating to tonight's agenda? Mr. Paoloni?
Yes, I received one from a John M. Gray, and he's asking when the recycle center will open. And of course, when it opens and we're closed here, then how do we sell annual permits and tickets?
So, let's discuss that when we get to, actually, there is an agenda item for Mike Sheehan on highway paving. I did get some input, actually, clarification and approval today from the county executive relating to that, but we'll come back to that in a few minutes, okay? Then we can address that then. But I do have comments on that for us to discuss at the board level.
Well, that was the only item.
Anything else?
That was the only item.
Okay, well, we'll come back, and I do have it as an item to discuss on my notes. Seeing nothing further, then do I have a motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
I'll make a motion to close the public portion. Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item will be in our discussion section to have Tim Moot, our town engineer representing CPL, to provide us an update on basically two items. But he and I had a long discussion with the Tri-Municipal Board of Commissioners and engineer the other day. So Tim, why don't you report on that, and then also highway project.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I think it'd be easier if I could try to share my screen real quick and see if I can pull up this spreadsheet. Stand by. Can you see that?
I don't
No.
see it.
No.
I'll see your face.
Saw Joey, but.
Here we go, we're ready.
There it is. It worked.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, so as Supervisor said, we had a discussion with Casey Engineers, the record engineer for Tri-Muni. There's basically three improvement categories. They've looked at multiple options and basically tried to boil it down to some simplified categories. One category would be plant modifications, and these are all like fixtures within the plant that allow the treatment process. So they've gone through, and there's three items: a sludge digester, odor control, and there's 7 clarifiers that need to be rebuilt as sort of an operational maintenance thing, since it's beyond their useful life at the moment. When they look at the total estimated budget, it's I'll just roughly numbers, 2.9 million. The next category would be the pump station modifications. So within that, these are the surge tanks that we spoke of at the last meeting. There's a village surge tank and a town surge tank. They did some preliminary investigations and found that, as far as debris, they weren't that bad, but there are some structural repairs to be considered. So that's what this 100% tank line item is for 1.2 million. There's also some piping modification, and SPIDA is basically a computer control system that can help modulate the valves and monitor flows and, better manage the use of these surface tanks. So that category was 1.8 million. I think together they were looking at maybe trying to reduce the cost, and instead of doing 100% of the tank lining, just do spot repairs. And you can see the difference would be, roughly 800,000. The biggest probably silver bullet improvement is the outlet pipe option, and this is where basically it's the outlet pipe for the whole facility, and they're looking at upsizing that diameter to allow more flow to pass through. So they have that targeted at about 2.5 million. So there's multiple combinations in here. These other columns are basically the share of each community, and it's based on the amount of flow relative to the 100% flow of today. So you can see across the board, the town of Wappinger share on the right all the way down. Now, KC has broken this up into 3 basic grant applications. So each one of these, like the outlet pipe would be a grant application. The pump station modifications, depending on the grant amount that if it gets awarded, we could pick option 1 or 2. And then the third one would be the plant modification. So the intent is to apply for as much grant funding, which would ultimately reduce the cost to each municipality, but still according to scale. So that's basically where we are with Tri-Muni at the moment.
And again, Tim, the main purpose for this is to be able to increase the ability of the tri-municipal plant to actually handle its designed flow and capability to process sewage as it comes in. The surge tanks have been a problem because the water was just, the sewage was just really passing through. Now they're drained, and with a SCADA system in there, it would allow for the modulation for the control of the flow as it goes through, that system, so that it can stage basically when and what, goes into the main system. The clarifiers, that's where the main plant and the treatment, ponds, the tanks have been in a state of disrepair. They need to be all fixed up. The plant is aged, so this is coming up. And then this pipeline underneath the railroad tracks going into the Hudson, if it's a larger diameter, right now things get clogged. They don't really flow through, so there's the backlog into the system. So it's not able to handle the growth in the flow, and that results in more times during heavy rains that the system is flushed out. So, the engineers for the tri-municipal, as well as Tim Mood, John Lazzaroni, believe that these upgrades would significantly enhance the ability of tri-municipal to process a lot more sewage than it's able to today, and certainly would enable us to have the ability to move all of our 3 aged plants into there, plus a lot more. So that's really the significance of this. We did have, I don't know how many months ago, Tim, a meeting in Albany, in large part on this, plus our plants. There seemed to be a very favorable response to getting grant monies at that time, pre-COVID. So we're hoping that that attitude and support, which was very strong support, we met with the director herself of the program for the EFC. So we're guardedly optimistic that because of the nature of this and the significance in our ability to take at least the Royal Ridge and Wildwood systems along with Woodhill Green offline and not contaminating the, adding to the contamination and the phosphorus at level and so forth. That would be a significant help to hopefully making the Wappinger Lake again green, in a new positive way rather than all the plant growth that's there. So this is a very significant, aspect of it. We finally, after a lot of pushing and thanks to the board for support and, having us actually get this to this point. I think all the work that's been done has really, Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but really forced the issue so we now have a full and open understanding. I think Jim Horan's challenge will be after this is to update the very much dinosaur, antiquated contracts with Tri-Municipal. That what is it, Jim? It goes back to 1996 or something like that, I guess.
Oh, I think it probably is back into the 80s.
Okay.
And the agreement really just contemplated the construction.
Right.
And it doesn't, after the plant was in operation, they never really went back and revisited it. And, one of the things that
Right.
the big funnel or stopping block right now from, some of the discussions is the outlet pipe up, which goes under the railroad tracks. And, they were working hard to come up with options, but because of endangered species, it limited the options that they had.
Another component is inflow and infiltration, and the plant suffers during wet weather flows. So we've recognized that, and as part of Wildwood and will be part of Midpoint Park, we will be looking at some investigations to try to rectify that on the town side.
So
further,
what kind of timeline we talking?
I was just going to
What
say,
kind of timeline
further to
we
that,
talking here,
we
Tim?
are working closely with the pavilion. I'd say further to that point on INI, we are very much engaged working with Pavilion. They are working on their ability to cure what has been a major source of INI in the system. So that's underway, at least as far as they have an engineer. They're working on the remediation plan as we speak. Sorry, Al, go ahead.
That's no problem. So what kind of time period are we talking about here, Tim, where we have to start executing on some of these numbers? I mean, they're huge. 3.6, 3.2 million.
So the first strategy was grants, and normally you hear about those in December, but as Supervisor said with COVID, I'm getting a lot of mixed signals of what's coming out EFC lately. So I haven't heard of anything directly from them, but
I would guess, based on the state of New York, I would imagine there's going to be very little bond or very little grants coming out towards this. So we have to think about that as well.
right. And I know KC is.
So to that issue, a lot of the grant programs come out of the Environmental Facilities Corporation, and a lot of that money comes from the federal EPA. So it's kind of a mix of federal and state funding. So there may be money there. It just may not be than it was in the past.
As much as we get for. Okay.
So I have a question.
So when is the time period, though, that we need to, at some point in time, make a decision on what we're doing? I get it, we're looking at grant money, but this is a significant amount of money, and as we go forward in our planning, we need to know, how do we plan for this thing in the future? I don't want this all of a sudden to sneak up on us and go, hey, by the way, you guys are going to come up with a bond for $3.6 million. So again, as we're putting our finance together, looking at not only, Tri-Muni, but other projects, pavings, highway garage, et cetera, we want to make sure we have all the numbers so we can make an informed decision.
No, that's why we're raising it again now. This is the fourth or fifth time I'm talking about that. So we have no answer to that. We've raised it. I've been raising it since we have a major share if it comes out of some other funding sources. There'll be another meeting. Tim, is it next week? Is it the first week in June? With the commissioners.
Be a week from Thursday.
Yes. So we'll have a meeting with the full commission, of which we attend, but we're not a voting member.
Just for the board's knowledge, so the funding for this comes out of the United Wappinger Sewer District. This doesn't come out of any of the other town funds, so any money comes for this just comes out of the sewer district.
So how is this typically funded? Do they go, like KC applies for whatever grants that they can get, and then at the end we're just stuck with a bill to go out and fund?
So typically, that's what happens is, in the past, most of the projects that have been done at Tri-Muni have been funded through EFC, Environmental Facilities Corporation. sometimes they've gotten some grants from New York State, primarily due to the economic situation in the village. So that's there's a complicated formula. If you ever want to sit down and be bored for a day, Chris, I can take you through it because it's based on population and income levels, and so that's how. And then they have a funding line, and it's a pretty complicated process the way EFC does it from year to year. And again, that's what we were using that with respect to Wildwood. So all of that money comes from the same kind of pot. So it's somewhat frustrating where Wildwood's competing in some respects against Tri-Muni. So
I guess just like, is there a simple, to Al's point, at the end of the day, are they going to turn around and say, you have a $1.8 million bill, get it?
No, because in some respects, I think the town of Wappingers is probably better off than particularly the village from a bonding point of view.
Right.
So this is a big chunk. The other thing too, which you need to remember, that in the village, the sewer expenses come out of the general fund. There's no specific fund, because village taxes go to pay the debt service on the sewer improvements. So it's a little bit more complicated for the village to do.
So I guess basically my question, if say we go to bond, we're binding as Tri-Muni as one of three?
No, actually what happens is, so that's a good point.
Yeah.
So what happens is the way the intermunicipal agreement is written is each municipality has to bond separately for its respective obligations, and typically they're all through EFC, but it's done as a package. But the bonds are issued individually by each municipality.
Okay.
They're not issued. The Tri-Muni doesn't have any independent bond authority.
Okay. Hey Tim, when you ask, could you send this to us?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I have a question. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So we are responsible for 50% of this entire project. It's Tri-Muni, which is 3 municipalities. And looking at your options, we're responsible for 50% of the total expense. Is that correct?
At the current time, that's correct, Bill. Yeah.
Okay. So how much input did we have from an engineering perspective on this?
We had some input. We were provided with a laundry list of items, and I had our engineers internally. We toured the plant, and we kind of tried to prioritize things that the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak. And that's why I think of this whole list, really, the outlet pipe is going to get you the furthest for the amount of money spent.
I totally agree with Tim on that issue.
So Bill, going back over a year ago, I insisted with the commissioners that we get, and Jay Bill basically strongly supported a second opinion, and that's when we brought in CPL, to look at this and some other issues, including I&I. So the Tim and CPL have been working pretty much in lockstep with the Tri-Municipal's engineers. They do, the Tri-Municipal's engineers do the first phase, and then Tim, they QC it, look at the numbers, kick the tires. That's what's been happening.
So that financial allocation is relative to the amount of flow, based on the total readings, which probably goes back to that agreement.
Actually, and this is kind of, the agreement's a little bit complicated, but my recollection is that the capital expenses are allocated based on design flows, and the operating expenses are based on operating flows.
The actual flows, yeah, operating. Yeah.
So then my question would be, what is the difference between option 1 and option 2?
Option 1 calls out for 100% lining of all the tanks. That's like going in and doing all the entire tank. And then option 2, based on this investigation that they did, they found a few areas that needed attention. So it's called target lining. So they would just go in and sort of fix those areas that need it, rather than line the whole entire thing.
but the 100% would fix the problem for a while. Whereas that you've gone, like the Stazzaroni is saying, well, we may have problems 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, based on other cracks or issues with respect to the pond, so, the surge tank. So that's where the core issue lies. But obviously, there's a huge price difference.
But the SCADA and the piping is the same for both options. It's really just the amount of tank repair.
Also, if this is done, if the wish list is done, does it increase capacity or no?
It does. I mean, so I don't recall all the exact numbers, but I think the plant might be rated for close to 7 million gallons per day, and right now they're at about close to 3, I think, when you add up all these numbers. And the issue was back in November of 2018, they had an intense rainfall that equated to almost 9 million gallons per day. And what Dick was describing is 9 million gallons per day can't fit through the outlet pipe. And so what happened was it backed up into the plant, it overflowed, and a lot of that was attributed to this I&I that we're talking about. It's a wet weather condition. What I recall, I think, was last summer, there was a drought, like a couple months, and when you looked at the flows during the dry season, the total combined flow, were like 1 million gallons per day.
Right.
It was like such a drastic difference. So,
During 3 months.
yeah, so all this is really geared toward the ability of the plant to accept an inflow of basically rainwater, and that's why these surge tanks, are going to play a key role along with the outlet.
Yeah, but even at that under normal usage, if we were to add Wildwood, Wood Hill Green, and Royal Ridge, then that pushes it well beyond its capability. So they seem to be confident. Tim and John Lazzaroni have advised me that if these remediations and additional add-ons by changing diameter of the pipe out to the Hudson were done, then that ability to reach maybe even theoretical capacity was going to be there, where it isn't right now. It's only half of the capacity at best.
I think we looked at it, I'd have to go back into John Lazzaroni's calculations, but doing the outlet pipe, I think, got us to a mid 5 million gallons per day.
Yeah.
Right now, we're close to 3, so.
And the clarifiers have to be done. Those things have to be done.
Yeah, you can't ignore it. And they looked at it in a multiple other pricing options. They looked at doing 2 or 3 a year, and there wasn't really the biggest cost saving to do them all in one shot. I mean, not all at one time, but sequentially.
And Mike Tremper has looked at it from his eye level and agrees with the general, findings and recommendations, and that if something isn't done, then this plant just, deteriorates more. So it's a real catch-22.
You put on this, Dick?
Well, I think we're looking at the pipe can last the pipe works, but it doesn't flow. I think you're looking at 3 years we have to get these things done, right? And as Tim said, getting all the clarifiers fixed at the same time makes more sense than doing a piecemeal, right? So the real gotcha. We thought we were really we're very high up on the EFC list for this project, but I think it's 2 to 3 years. Tim, am I wrong on that?
No, I'd say at least that, yeah. I mean, I think KC has already literally started on the design for the outlet pipe. That's what Jim was alluding to. The first concept was, could we use the tidal pool as like our natural conduit to get it to the river? And we worked with KC with DEC, and we just got some responses. I reported on the last one. Turns out we do need to get a pipe, and it does need to get out to the Hudson propers.
Right.
Tim, are they accepting of any input that you guys have?
Yes, absolutely. We
Okay,
work
good.
together. It's not like we're talking to the wall.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Very good. That's what I want to hear.
I think we have in a sense that we, without having to fix it.
Well, if we are not able to finance this, then this project can't happen.
I agree with Bill. Yeah.
So what I would say is, see what grants exist out there as you have in the past moving forward. If we're looking 2 to 3 years out, I have no problem continuing to move forward and continue to do the research and continue to do what's best to expand the system. You know my position personally about Tri-Muni. I believe firmly that if we're going to be investing this type of money into Tri-Municipal, we need to have a seat at the table. I think that's
Exactly.
a conversation for another night.
I agree, and I think that's where Jim is looking at it, needs to go back to all those agreements as well. And I think, Jay Baisley understands that, and probably would like to see us there to neutralize some other interests. But what is the price tag they're going to want? I think the price tag should be our participating in this way, right? Not grabbing money from us for past issues. I think we more than paid. I looked at it just over 10 years. Over a 10-year period of time is what I had Frederick look at. We put in over $12 million into Tri-Municipal, combination of our tenancy fee and capital costs. Just 10 years, Bill.
Do we know what they put in? The other two groups, the Village of Wapenters and
I haven't looked at that yet, but this was our first pass just on that to see what just for 10 years. So yeah, we can pull those numbers out further.
Dick, $12 million buys a nice seat.
Well, that's what I've been saying, and then pushback is no, it doesn't. But yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page, and we can discuss further at a future time. But thank you for the update.
Sure. Working
Thank
it hard. So, Tim, you wanted to talk?
So a couple other things, some I don't have a graphic, just a report. I received a call from the DEP attorney regarding Chelsea Water, and there was some emails. We tried to get everybody on the board in the loop about hauling of the large pipe sections. They needed to be transported from the Newburgh side to the Wappinger side over, the Newburgh Beacon Bridge. DOT has requirements over the bridge that was only at night. So there were 2 to 3 pipe sections going to be delivered per trip. The trip was going to occur 2 to 5 a.m. And so basically they've had one delivery so far. I haven't heard of any issues.
One delivery.
What's that?
They got one delivery so far.
Yep. And so I just asked for an update today, and the deliveries will start again tomorrow. And they're slated to they'll only be delivered on the weekdays. They won't do it over the weekend.
Have we lost some connection on this? I'm sorry to interrupt, but my main screen is gone, but I see little blocks with people, but not the main screen.
Something happened with Joey's.
Yeah, we're having issues.
Okay, go ahead, sorry. Just want to make sure we're on.
Yep. So then, there it goes, it went back. So they're going to start up again tomorrow, and they'll only be delivered during the week, not the weekends, and their last day for delivery is slated to be June 3rd. But I guess the last piece of pipe has to be cut into 2 pieces, and that's like a piece of work that they're trying to integrate during this delivery schedule. So the very last piece is pending on a date, so I can let you know if I need.
Yeah, just keep us informed of that, please, Jim.
Will do.
Thank you.
I also been communicating with Ed too, and I check the roads every morning. There's no damage so far, even though 3 pipes were delivered. Like you said, there's the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, 6-2, and 6-3. And I'll keep an eye on the roads every morning. I'll get up early and check, make sure everything's good.
If you can provide a report, Mike, if you hear what you see, would be beneficial to us. Please.
Yes,
Mike.
and I will. If there's any changes in the road, I will videotape it. We videotaped before this project started, and they had no problems in Newburgh. They did the same thing over there, and everything was successful over there.
Right, we just don't want to be the first that we have a problem. So, thank you.
Yep, I hear you.
Thank you.
Another update, County Route 28, Old Hopewell Road. We got an invite to a pre-construction meeting with Dutchess County DPW last week, and Supervisor Thurston and Joey was on. So it was a rough connection to here, but I got the minutes, and they're going to start with the video messaging boards. The minutes state that there's maybe going to start with some survey work, which would have already started. but really no construction work, at least for the next 2-week window. Dick, did you get a schedule from the county? Cause
Not yet, no, I asked it
you
for it
didn't say
again.
that the contractor gave it, so I sent the county a note later this evening.
No. Joey, you didn't either, right?
Nope, and I asked again if it got sent somewhere else, so I'll follow up.
The only date I got was an end date of approximately December 15th, 2021, right?
That's all I got too.
Boy.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask a question. I'll ask the historian. Is there any value of taking a history of pictures of what the road looks like now and then going forward, both from picture, maybe even liability in case they screw up because, you know, some of the other issues? I don't know.
I can do that tomorrow if you'd like. I can go out and start photographing before they start construction.
You know, a couple people had mentioned it to me
Yeah.
as well.
I think that would be a good project too to have, so I can do that tomorrow.
And then let's make sure, as I said, you know, before in the letter I sent to Commissioner Balkine, and he agreed, you know, we look out for any historical relics that might be dug up along the old turnpike path, you know, and, you know, so.
When I had my meeting with Commissioner Balkine, we also raised that as well, again, and they had expressed our concerns to the contractor, so.
He's been, you know, I want to say this, you know, credit, you know, where credit's due. Bob Balkine has been very responsive, cooperative. I think his challenges, it always has been, is with contractors, you know, and making sure he gets the information from them, you know, and then pass it on to us. So he has been quite responsive to almost everything we've asked of him, not just this, but other projects. While we're talking about it, they're saying that the roundabout, I guess is what you call it, over at the airport, New Hackensack, All Angels, that area will be coordinated so it doesn't start during this particular project. It will be afterward. That's a state-driven project, but the county's involved. But at least at this point, because that's all we need is have 2 or 2.5 of our major roads locked down, you know, for something. And then the other project that will come after that, we still haven't gotten it updated, is the rebuilding of the bridge across the creek, you know, which the bridge section, the bridge span is in the town actually. So, but we're waiting for, Tim, you haven't heard anything further, you or John, you know, about that project.
Which one's that, Route 9?
Yeah, Route 9, the bridge.
They're replacing the whole thing?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. They'll take the whole span out and then do rework for drainage, hopefully, you know, silt and junk going into the, you know, creek and lake and so forth. So yeah, a lot of work there. But what we push for, they've agreed to in Conceptville, is to have a pedestrian walkway instead of walking down that concrete meridian. You know, so, you know, we're going to do that, and then I think as that gets closer, put it in for grant money as well. For our, at least.
Be nice to have a sidewalk from there up through this road right there by the gateway sign, and then connect to the existing sidewalk.
That's correct. And what we've been, you know, done, Tim's done, and we've done a preliminary look for the board, you know, is actually a sidewalk plan that would be for all Route 9, you know, taking it all the way down. So that's a work in progress, and we'll report back to you later. But I've already let the county and the county Highway Commission, Dutchess County, Highway Commission, or whatever it's called.
Transportation Council.
Transportation Council, in which I have a voting, you know, I'm a voting member, actually, one of the key voting members. They're in full support and working with us on that as well. So that's a project. Hopefully, we'll have some good news going forward as funding comes available, I hope.
Good.
And then Robinson Lane, our DOH approval is moving forward. We got comments, and we're gonna wrap up our response to comments this week. So I'm hopeful within the next 2 to 3 weeks we'll have our septic system approved there.
And basically, those comments were not really strong negatives. They're just asking about how repositioning something. What is some of the flow? You know, right, Tim? They weren't really.
We had to do a few more perk tests. It wasn't anything new. No showstoppers. Carnwath Route, the last time we were talking about the copper ridge line, and if I can try to share this picture real quick. This is
That looks nice.
Yeah, like a that's kind of like, if you recall, 2 weeks ago, there was, shingles, the slate was all coming off, there was a gap, so now that's all done. All the roof work is done, and we're working on closing it out. That came together.
It looks real nice if you get down there to take a look at it.
It looks a lot better than the asphalt stuff they had on there before. I don't know what that was.
That was just
Big
tar,
like a
man.
sieve, man.
That was tar that was sucking in. Yeah, you're right, like a sponge sucking in all the water.
Yeah.
And snow.
So lastly, I'll just talk in general about the highway, the garage. We're pending signed contracts from the town for the gas line relocation. Hopefully we can get that done. We've been coordinating with the lift manufacturer. I don't know if you can still see my screen here. There's just some pictures of this heavy-duty lift system. It's basically a drive-on. Are you able to see that, or am I going too fast?
All we see is the roof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
See the roof, but it looks good.
All right, hold on.
it's a nice
Hold
roof,
on.
right?
I'll say so.
Yeah.
And, we talked briefly about the overall project improvements budget for the highway garage. This would include the break room, the lift, the 3-bay addition. And so now we're trying to coordinate with the lift. We're working with Mike and John DiMartino with the lift manufacturers. Can you see that?
Not yet.
No.
See the file, PDF,
Your file, but no.
it's not open. Maybe you need to drag it over.
Can you open it again?
I think you need to launch it.
I'll say stop sharing.
There it is.
There we go.
So it's a pretty heavy duty lift. This is like the biggest one they have that will accommodate the Vector truck. The Vector truck is the largest kind of weight vehicle in the fleet. I'll just scroll down the pictures so you can get a sense. But the budget number came in on this real heavy duty lift at $143,000, and it gets built into the floor. I'll show you a couple pictures later. But it's really sized to deal with this back truck. Now, part of the discussion was how often is the back truck going to be on this thing? Like maybe you could help with some of this, but I think currently it gets sent out for some work.
Yes, it does, Ted.
So I was trying to do some value engineering. I went back to the lift people to say, okay, what's the cost of the next lift down from this size, which likely wouldn't be able to handle the Vector truck. And that one came in at about $134,000. So last meeting I shared a preliminary budget, and we were roughly around $800,000 all in. But I was concerned about the lift because we only carried like a $40,000 number for that. So we're still about $1 million looking at improvements for the highway garage. That would include break room components, the 3-bay addition to the garage, and let's see if I can pull that up.
But you ranged it last time, so between 850 and $1 million last time, so that's
my
enough
gut
coverage.
check was like it's going to be around $1 million. And
Yeah.
now it certainly is. So that's where we're at. I don't know how much more. But we do have an on-site meeting with the lift manufacturer tomorrow, so I'm hoping that maybe there's like a third option that would be a little less than the 134. But I think at some point you're going to hit a break point on functionality, in purpose there. So
And that lift, does it recess flush into
Yeah.
the floor?
there's yeah. I don't know if I can go back now, I'm blowing this thing.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
there are like little grooves in the concrete, and then there was a picture where there's a sort of like a console, almost like a podium. And you stand next to the podium with all the controls, and then the lift kind of just collapses into these notches in the floor. Ideally, that gets constructed in the center bay, And then, that allows you each bay, like if you had to pull an axle out or give you extra room. I don't know if I can pull that up real quick. Right here, can you see that still or no?
Yeah.
That
Oh, I
makes sense.
Yeah,
It's the
we're,
console, and then when this gets collapsed, it fits into this groove into the floor here.
oh, it's flush with the floor.
It's flush with the floor, and then that way, you know, that middle bay would still be, you'd still be able to park something.
Okay, thanks.
So that's pretty much what I had on my list, unless there's any other questions.
So have we, run, I'm asking Mike, Frederick, have we run an analysis on how much it costs us each year to repair that large truck, the vac truck? And, the cost savings of that over a period of time if we were to do this? I don't know what the useful life of the truck is, but, how much, and the older it gets, I know it's going to be more expensive to repair. But has anybody done that study, or can we?
Yeah, we can do it, Dick. I can ask John DiMartino about it, tomorrow morning, and I can send you, the board some information on it.
Okay, and then,
I don't know how, I don't know how, necessary to use that, to get that big lift. Like I said, we always sent it out, so we're gonna have to look into that tomorrow, and I'll talk to John DiMartino about it tomorrow and then.
yeah, look at a cost justification for it. If we send it out, it's not a huge amount, but also, John, so good, thinking of the useful life of that vehicle and extending the life, right? He's done a remarkable job of extending life of our vehicles. So just looking at it over time, what the cost would be, and so we can have something to judge by.
Yeah,
And then
I'll do that tomorrow
how
morning.
we kick the tires.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So what all we really want to do is put together a priority list of things we're going to do at the highway garage, because, we were talking about putting the new building on there. We're talking about, getting a new lift for the Vector truck. What is our priority? Because, we're probably not going to be able to afford to do this over the next year. You're not going to be able to do all $852 million, so it's going to have to be a, 2 to 3, 4 year project. So don't we want to prioritize what we think we can do?
And on top of that, Al, we have to look at the whole drainage system and the drainage retention. To me, that's a high priority. And, how to, Tim and, I guess, probably, Mike, I don't know who dug it out, but, before that was a mess, and we've never really successfully capped that off, understand where the flow goes. We have this big drain in the middle of the dirt roadway. I'm concerned about those potential, issues if we don't get that addressed. So yes, I agree with you fully. We should have a list of priorities. And
Our priorities, the way we were working was we identified the gas line relocation as a safety. So that's like number one, and that's in motion.
Right, and we already approved the funds for that, so we
Got
should be good to go on that. It's what, a matter of couple weeks,
Yep.
hopefully?
He's just waiting on signed contracts from the town, and then we can get a schedule from them, but it shouldn't take more than 2 weeks to physically do the work, once the paperwork's in place. Then from there, it was gonna be the break room and things that were basically, life safety, aesthetics, for the people, so they weren't sharing the same space, with the machines, so they had
and
their
we'll
own.
talk a little bit about that in executive session too, based on another act.
And then the other wild card is, how much can the town with Steve and his forces kind of complete some of this work without having to go to public bid? As much you can do internally, you're gonna save the long run.
Yep.
So, and once the break room and that is all figured out, then we were gonna go to the 3-bay garage, and then with that, it has to be lit. So that needs to get integrated at the same time.
Yeah, and I think as we look at, that, and particularly with the ability to handle repair and maintenance, we, also do need to think about Steve's equipment. If we have the right, facility up there, then that could perhaps save us money. Steve's barn is not in the greatest of shape. And so if, repair and maintenance of all vehicles could be done, better up there, then that might save us some money over time. I also did have, before, we haven't pursued it pending this, is that, the mayor, had suggested that, he might, like to have us do some repair and maintenance of his vehicles. So maybe there's a, financial, arrangement that could be worked out there. So I think we should look at all that, and certainly the resources for the town. So if doing some upgrades here also help with Steve's area, then we can consider that as well. I'm not saying that's what we do, but we should look at that.
I think we really need to have a capital plan in place here moving forward. Some of these projects seem to be somewhat arbitrary to me. I mean, don't take that the wrong way, but I feel like we need to have a, there needs to be a capital plan on the highway department, not we're going to do this, then we're going to do that, then we're going to do this, because basically, I don't want to get into a situation where we are inadvertently obligating ourselves to take the next step where we may not have the funding to do so.
Well, that's why I said I wanted to do it over a 2, 3, 4 year period, because we're not going to be able to afford it all this year. So I agree with you. We should do a capital plan.
Yeah, I agree too. We've been actually talking about that for a while, and I think what Al is saying is exactly that. Find out all the list of things, then we prioritize it and build it into a workable plan. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else, Tim? Okay.
That's all I had on my list.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for continuing to work, hard on these various, projects.
Thank you.
Planning. Look forward, yeah. Second item, we can defer that to executive session. So I'll jump to Steve Frazier with respect to what we call the HVAC repairs. This is really, remember, the joints and the pipe, the joints that are popping out. So Steve, you wanted to comment on that?
Right. I had mentioned at a previous meeting that there is a problem in the building department HVAC system, which was replaced a couple years ago. They used solder rather than brazing compound when they did the joints in the refrigeration pipes. The solder is not rated to carry the pressures that are generated in that system. The manufacturer specifies brazed joints or compressed joints, and we have neither. One has failed, and we had that happened to fail during the installation of the new system. It was unrelated to that, and I had them make the repair while they were here, and I believe that cost us somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 to have that one repaired. We're at risk of having additional failures because there's a number of joints that are not done properly. And I would like to get those repaired before they fail. The CPL did some investigation on the job, and the company that has done the job is no longer in business. So it doesn't look like we're going to be able to recoup any of the cost of this to get that done. Now, the other thing is, if there is a failure, it's kind of a hazard, a risk of hazard if the room happens to be occupied when it does fail. The last time it knocked out a ceiling tile and sprayed the refrigeration gas and oil throughout the room. Fortunately, there was nobody in the room. It happened overnight at that time. So that's something that we need to consider in this as well. I got a ballpark figure. They can't really give us a hard number on this because they could find additional joints as they go along. But I got a ballpark figure of between 10 and 15,000 to do all the joints on the refrigeration line. It would require replacing the main manifold. So there's some parts involved, and he said it should be within a week's time to get it done.
And what kind of warranty comes with that? Because apparently the last vendor that did it did a horrible job and using the wrong materials. So I just want to make sure that, is this vendor here you're talking about, that they pretty good at what they do? I mean, because the last one we put it in, it seems like we spent a lot of money and now we're already having to do repairs on it.
Right, this is, Johnson Controls, and they're my go-to when we have issues because I have a real good track record with them. You know, when I get something repaired, it's done properly the first time, and if there is an issue down the road, they've always stood behind it.
So what kind of time frame from when they start to they get it done, would you say?
He said that it should be done within a week of starting.
So with minimal staff at town hall, it would make sense to jump.
That was another point I wanted to make. Yeah, this would be the time to do it before we're at full capacity again.
I
And
agree,
again,
especially with a safety issue that can happen at any time. Thanks, Mike. I mean, thanks, Steve.
Steve,
That's our real concern.
when was this work done?
I believe it was about 2 years ago that the building department was replaced. That was due to catastrophic failure of the original system in the building. And the company that won the bid and did the work is no longer in business.
I mean, I seem to remember over the recent years, we've had faulty work done at least on 2 occasions to this system. Is that true?
I'm only aware of this one incident.
And Steve, you were, fired or let go for a period. This happened probably more than, 3 years ago because it wasn't on, my watch. It was before that, right? When you got that.
The system in the building department was installed, well, shortly after, I'd say 1 or 2 years after the system was installed in the Justice Court. The split system went into Justice Court. I believe that was funded at least in part by a grant from OCA.
Right, that's a Mitsubishi system, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what system. Steve, do you know what system this is?
This is what they call a multi-city unit by Mitsubishi. The Justice Court was installed previous to me being hired. I believe I was here when the building, yes, I was here because I had been campaigning to have that system replaced before it failed, and then it finally did fail, and we ended up having it replaced. But it was 2 or 3 years ago that was done, and at the time, we assumed it was done properly.
So not to mix apples and oranges, but, we're close to closing out the recent HVAC upgrade. And that contract right now unofficially is tracking to have roughly a $23,000 credit back. So, again, it's not final yet. We need to get that final. I wanted to see a little bit of a cooling season go on. So, to get the bugs worked out during the cooling season. We saw what had to be done during the heat season, but there would be monies coming back from that project.
And how much does this cost to get this repair done?
I'm not able to get a hard number for you. He gave me an estimate of between 10 and 15,000, depending on how extensive the number of joints are in this. Basically, they're going to have to retrace the lines from the compressor to the what we call the cassettes that are in the ceilings, and inspect every joint along the way.
All right, I don't think we have an option but to get further information and move forward.
I agree.
Yep.
Since it's below the public works threshold, you don't need to go out for competitive bidding. So.
What's the public works? 15,000?
No, it's 35.
All right, so I make a motion that we spend no more than $15,000 on correcting this issue.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Motion passed. Thank you.
I'll add that Johnson Controls is a Sourcewell contractor, which that meets the requirements of the state bid system.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are they Mitsubishi certified?
That's correct. They're certified Mitsubishi service contractors.
Are they doing service work under our maintenance plan for the rest of this system?
Right. We just awarded them the service contract for both buildings at the last meeting.
Yep.
So Steve, once we make this repair through Johnson Controls, are they going to take over the whole system? So in other words, as I think Dick just said, we have the big contract we just approved at the last town boarding, so they'll own everything across the board, so these pins or anything else goes out, it's all covered under the new maintenance contract?
Under the new maintenance contract, we pay, they do the labor, we pay for the parts.
Labor is the biggest piece of it, though.
Right, they pay labor and then, we would pay parts, and it's really for, actually, they pay for, the contract is for scheduled maintenance. So if there's repairs that need to be made, on the brand new HVAC system, they would probably be, covered under the warranty. But with respect to the older systems, if it's a breakdown, if it's a failure, we would pay parts and labor. The service contract is for regular maintenance of the system.
Okay, thank you.
There was another option for emergency repairs, but it was basically twice the price.
That's right. We did not vote for that.
Yeah, the service contract is preventive maintenance on the system. And as Jim mentioned, the new system will be covered under warranty, I believe, for a year or two. But that will go back on the installing contractor.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Steve. Next item, I have asked Keith Studd to be here with us. Sandra and I have been working with Keith, who's with ITC, who has been doing most of the repair maintenance work with our current system. We have a dinosaur of a Watsu system that I don't think is even in service or parts available anymore, that has actually a patchwork quilt of a variety of systems, including some Optimum, some Verizon, some out of date. We don't have interconnection between all the town hall functions, including the court or the highway garage or Steve's area. There's all these separate lines. The quality of that, including other transmission line coverage and so forth, is just abysmal, quite honestly. We've had a lot of failures and outages that Sandra's actually had to put up with. So we've asked Keith to put together a proposal that he's prepared to give us about 10-minute background on. That would be an overhaul and upgrade of our system. What I've asked him to do is keep it within the current monthly service basis, and where they continue to lease the equipment to us, where we don't own it. Where we own the equipment, buy it all, would be a significantly greater price. As a result of all that he'll talk about and all the enhancement and upgrades, he can go into a little bit more detail. It will cost us about $800 additionally a month for the new services, the new equipment, the new integration that they're proposing. So I'll turn it over to Keith. Introduce yourself, Keith, what you've been doing for town, and then go into a high level of your proposal.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. So, Keith Stute, owner, president of ITC. So, roughly about 10 years ago, we did the same type of presentation for you guys when we put the Watsu system in. So, we're going to go through. I tend to put a lot of things in writing and go through this what we call New York style, as I only have about 10 minutes to go through kind of the highlights, but kind of show you why we would make a change to a system. Number one, and what are some of the key benefits of going this path. And talk a lot about resiliency, redundancy, business continuity, especially when we're working in a really an environment like today where we're outside of the office all the time. So I will go through this, as I mentioned, New York style relatively quickly. We'll do some questions at the end. We've been doing this just now for 30 years, accredited by the Business Bureau. Our project overview, we don't come in and just say, here's the phone system that you need. We really sit down as he mentioned, and sat with a lot of different folks within the organization to say, what is it that you have? Where are you having some of the troubles? And number one, the system was installed back in 2009. So that's 10 years ago. That's iPhone 3 series, right? So I don't know anybody here that has iPhone 3, but that's what we're talking about, right? A little bit older technology. And the concern around that is the system is manufactured, discontinued. We are maintaining it currently on a month-to-month basis, but even the staff that we have, as we're bringing new staff on board, we're not training on the product anymore, right? it's more challenging to even have the staff to maintain the product. As a result of looking at something new, what if we could connect not only Town Hall, but now Justice Court, which is in the same building, Highway, the barn, and even the ESB building next door, and really kind of create a single system? What would that look like? Our main provider, as the supervisor had just mentioned, is a company called Magna 5. They are our inbound, outbound service provider. So that's where your dial tone comes from when there's a problem, and we've had problems in the past. Calls are made out to them, and although their price point is great for their inbound, outbound service, their service has not been. So there have been times in the past where, although the phones have been working, your service hasn't, and that's created some problems. We mentioned Optimum is used at some other areas for your voice service. Fiber optics Fios specifically is available at Town Hall, and you'll see why this plays in. The requirements for the number of phones are broken down there. Justice Court is currently separate from Town Hall today, so we got to do a hang up and dial scenario when we get a call to Justice Court. So, or a 7-digit dial from within the same building. So a little convoluted there. We certainly want to create again that single system, 3-digit dialing, no matter where we are, and that's kind of the key things around that. We want to retain all your existing phone numbers and retain, unless we want to make changes, how we do business, which today is to answer calls live specific to each department. So we don't necessarily want to change that unless you do, and certainly make sure the new system accommodates that accordingly. One of the things that came up as, again, we talk about business continuity is we want to consider the ESB building, even though it's next door, as an area for future growth, for office space, as well as even disaster recovery in the event of a sprinkler head or a fire or something along those lines.
And keep in mind, I'll just interrupt, keep in mind, board members, that we have 2,000 square feet over there that is town space, not ambulance or state police. So that's what Keith is referring to, that particular space.
Correct, yep. So the other thing that came up is that within the highway department, it was mentioned that, looking at a separate subsystem, wouldn't it be nice to notify the team members there, using an example of the snowstorm, through methods like text and phone calls and even emails, that they have a snowstorm event and they should, could come into work. So, we wanted to maybe try to incorporate that into this system so we have, again, one single system that supports multiple functions. We do have a lot of folks that use town hall provided cell phones. Why that's important, because we do have apps in the future that can reside on those cell phones. We wanted to create a method for people to do a hotline dial so that when you do have a snow event for your internal employees, so rather than the old hotline where people dial out, this would be a hotline where people dial in to see that we're in a code blue or code red when the buildings are open. We don't have our voicemail messages delivered to email today, so we have to do the old method where we dial in and check our messages. So it would be useful to have our voicemail messages delivered to email. It seems commonplace today, but that's what we're dealing with, right? We like to have the ability to provide messages to the board members, have them a part of the system, and provide notifications so they get their voicemail messages and can be a part of the system if you want them to. The infrastructure itself that's within the system is not what we call voice over IP ready. It's not able to accommodate the new technology directly, so we're going to accommodate that within our proposal. We've had discussions, again, about having additional products like overhead paging and notification system throughout Town Hall. So just in addition to being able to page the phone overhead, be able to page in the event of an emergency.
Yeah, let me interrupt. So, that's one of the key functions, that if we were to have an emergency crisis event in Town Hall, there's no way to easily communicate right now between East Wing and West Wing or to let people know. And this has been an area that's been criticized by a number of consultants, not just Keith.
The other side to that is the next generation of notifications, right? So we have events like, obviously, 911 calls, being able to notify people, especially in Town Hall when you've got so many different entrances, exits, who made that call and where. So if a 911 call was to be made, how do we identify that? And even things like active shooter or, concern, someone's coming in with a threat and you want to have a button maybe to press on the phone to provide notification throughout. So these are some of the criteria from which we developed our proposal. Around that, certainly to be able to provide, in-depth training. Change is difficult. We want to make sure that we provide the staff the ability to train on the system and provide timely and professional services when you do have a problem. So just briefly, training, obviously, we do 3 levels of training today: the phone training, software training, and even administrator training. So if people want to, program and do some of the system functions themselves, have at it. But we're going to maintain it behind the scenes. There's no cost for the life of the system as we maintain that for any type of programming changes. As far as implementation, we're designing the system with you, and you're providing us the criteria, but we're not taking your old phone system down until, we know what the new system's going to do. So we do all that stuff kind of behind the scenes, including, having everything set up and even doing some pre-training. As the supervisor mentioned, we can do things on a monthly basis. As a part of that, we've created what we call kind of an iPhone experience, where after a period of time, we can, if so desired, refresh the equipment with no change to the payment. So, within 24 months, 36 months, we can replace up to 50% of everything we put in without changing the payment. Now, that's not necessarily so critical for a municipality, but it is available. So as new technology becomes available, someone wants a different phone on their desktop, or even other technology outside of this, like active shooter and those types of things, you can accommodate that without worrying about changing a budget number. So that's really kind of important. Also, a part of that is all parts, all labor, normal wear and tear, 24-hour emergency services, and even on-site moves and changes. So this is even more enhanced than the program we had 10 years ago. And I'm sure we can go over that in a little bit more detail. So just to give you a quick idea of really, maybe a picture sometimes worth 1,000 words, we've got these 4 locations today, and the quantities, this is specific to obviously the voice communications, but our thought was, rather than use old copper technology that we use from the other provider and using a phone system that resides within town halls, we're going to move that phone system really to the cloud. And the cloud is going to be where that phone system resides. So not one single location is responsible for the other, right? So if we have any type of breaks and any type of connectivity in the highway, well, any other locations still operate. Even more so is if we had a catastrophic event within the county, our phone system was still operating and answering calls and taking messages. And even more so, if we have 4G service or 3G service, we can run an app on our phone and connect and still be making and receiving phone calls on behalf of the town, no matter where we are. And a lot of people are doing that today, not only within municipality for businesses, right? That's how they're operating. They're running on their cell phones, using the same technology, and working as though they're in the office, even though they're working from home. So we've created a couple of different layers. This cloud service is provided East Coast. It's redundant within the data center itself, and then also resides West Coast to Colorado in the event of a catastrophic event to the data center. We've created 2 legs down into town hall, 1 fiber and 1 coax. So in the event that Fios and Verizon has an issue, even mid-call, we're moving that across a coax connection. So we've got a lot of resiliency, a lot of business continuity, a lot of redundancy now built into the system. But take it a step further, as I mentioned, if town hall was to have a catastrophic event, we could literally pick up our phones and move them to the ESP and now start to operate in minutes rather than days. So it's really, really important, and we don't even have to move our phones when we have the app already pre-connected. So it gives you kind of a really good snapshot of what we're trying to accomplish within the municipality here. Just briefly, as far as the details of what it is that we're providing, we've talked about all of these things. The couple of the key features are we've got one single system geographically dispersed, right? So we can transfer a call to any station anywhere. We can see who's on the phone at any station anywhere. So if I need to speak to the highway superintendent, I can see he's on the phone. I'm sorry, he's on his phone. Would you like his voicemail? And transfer a call to his voicemail. Or if he receives a voicemail message, he can transfer that voicemail message to someone in town hall. So just like we have in town hall now, we're just making it larger for everybody else to utilize. So that's really the key feature. And we're eliminating Magna 5 and the associated services that they've provided, right, as a part of that. So that's really, really important. As I mentioned, everybody has the ability to have this app that can reside on their phone. It's a question of how you wish to deploy it. We have basic reporting built in. We're pushing the caller ID you want to see. And we have unprecedented inbound, outbound capacity increase, over 100%. So there'll be no cases where we'll receive a busy signal. So financially, if we just go to that slide, because I'm at my 11 minutes and I noticed that. So we broke this down in 2 methods. One is, as we talked about, our assurance program, whereby it's a monthly payment. That monthly payment is about $942. The actual cloud-based PBX and usage, which is unlimited local long distance, is about $979. And then our fax services, we're even enhancing the fax services. No busy signals, ability to receive and send from email is about $250. The option behind that is to do purchase, whereby we purchase the equipment up front, which is a CapEx, and then we still have our cloud licensing and our faxing service. So if we look at it's not really all these numbers added up as what we're paying, because we are already making payments, right? So today we paid Magna 5 nearly $990, Optimum about $140, and you're paying us $290 for maintenance services. So although this is not an apples to apples comparison, it is a budget, because we're not getting new equipment on the left side. This is really what we're paying today in expenses before taxes and surcharges. And then utilizing what we just presented here, we're looking at about $25.65. The net result between the two is the additional monthly investment to the town is about $1,154. So it's not a $2,500 investment. It's $1,100 investment, because you already have budget allocated for this. So I've gone over by a couple minutes here. Let me open it up for questions. And I know it was quick and fast and coming at you, but by all means, ask away.
Very good, Keith. Thank you. Any questions, comments, folks?
Keith, are you the voice of our phone tree?
So the answer is my brother is the voice. So that's our biggest mistake, Bill, is that we should have done royalties and not charged for anything else but our voices. But the answer is no, that's my brother. And he's on a lot of different systems in Hudson Valley if you call around.
I'm a big fan. Thank you. I'll take a look at this. Are you able to send us a PDF of this, or is it?
We can send it to you, Bill. Yeah.
Okay.
We wanted to introduce it. We'll send it to you. Sandra,
I sent it out already.
Okay.
Yeah, you should have it. I sent it to all the board before I left the office today. I didn't realize it was not sent out to you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I add really quickly?
Yeah, please. Let me just preface it, Sandra. Sandra's put an awful lot of time into this. Actually, I kind of kicked her to look at solutions. She got Keith in, and friendly way. I mean, with everything else she's doing, she really jumped on this, because we've had horrific issues with respect to the phone system internally. I haven't bothered the board most of the time, because Sandra's been able to fix it. But it's sort of like Barbara's software we approved before. It's at that point now where, the dinosaur is sitting on us and breaking down the building.
So is this something we're going to do near term, or no? Because it's another $14,000 a year.
Well, I think, I recommend we do it, now, because our system is at the point where we don't have redundancy, we don't have clarity, we don't have interconnectivity, for it. So, I mean, that's the issue that we want to look at. I think Keith is saying also that right now, getting parts and maintenance is itself obsolete. We're going to have to do something pretty soon, because the system doesn't have people that can maintain it much longer. I don't know what he thinks the useful life is potential beyond it, but
Yeah, I mean, the product itself is end of life. Certainly any materials that we provide are already refurbished or used. So that's hey, listen, the system's been very reliable internally. We've had issues with our carriers to and from the site. But as you mentioned, the challenge is not sometimes within the parts, but even our people, right? So it's less and less of the people that are, and even the people that have been trained, we're migrating and have been migrating for years to the newer technology. So the product has done what it's needed to do, but it can't do any of the things that we're asking it to do next generation. So, our current agreement is month to month, and we're going to, we're really just kind of doing that as a courtesy at this point. We really want to, get some direction and ultimately stop that, but we haven't provided official notices yet to the town.
Keith, was that activation, one-time activation, is that per unit or for the whole system?
The activation fees?
Yeah.
So the activation fees are less than, it's obviously in the small print. The only activation fees between the one-time activations of your FiOS, your Optimum services and that type is less than $800.
Okay, so I was asking if that was a per unit or as a
No,
whole?
that's one time across the board. All of,
Okay.
all of our services and installation are built into, this number as part of our
Okay.
insurance. That's a part of that.
Anyway, can I go back to the quick,
Yeah.
I just want to update the board about the fact that I'm in that office every day, and I do recognize some of the issues that we've been having continuously. We actually started looking at the phone system the first year we were there. The phone system is very much outdated. Even if you put somebody on hold and you don't answer it right away, the phone call jumps to somebody else. You don't even know where it went. I was getting phone calls, I didn't even know where they were coming from. If there's a problem with the phone, I get a call, my phone's not working, I don't know what to do. You don't know who to call. You call Verizon, you call Fios, you call Magnify, you call ITC. Nobody knows who to call. The leadership team changes, staff don't know who to call, so it's my job to figure out what the problem is and who can fix it. In this case, ITC would be responsible for 100% of that. The staff has a problem, they send me an email, or they send the supervisor an email, they contact ITC, ITC fixes the problem, whatever the problem is. There are so many different scenarios as to the phone not working properly. I think Mr. Veal had an issue one day with that phone system. It just doesn't work the way that we need it to work right now. And it doesn't get to the people that it has to get to easily. It's a very complicated process. If an employee is moved from one office to another, they have to come in and they have to make changes upstairs, and because it's not in the phone. In the new system, everything is in the phone. You go from desk to that desk, and it goes with you. All your information goes with you. There's an emergency in my office, and I need to let somebody know, or somebody letting me know they have a problem. We can actually through the speaker system make an announcement that there's an issue. Or we can advise people through the system. So it just has a lot of protective features to it too. So I think it's a great way to bring us into the 21st century. It is, a bit more expensive, but I think that the staff can work a lot better, especially with working from home more like we've done. With the app on their phone, I think it's going to be a great feature to be able to make a call like you're calling from the office. And I think that's really important, not to lose continuity.
Well, let me understand the contract. So every 24 months, you're going to update 30% of all the equipment, and no change in price, so the 2565 will stay the same?
Yeah, so that's an option. So it's not, you don't have to do that. So this is based on a 60-month term out. And so, so a 60-month term, so you don't have to do that, but it is available to you. And so at the end of the term, now you have options. Really, the equipment is paid for in full, and so you could then enter into an agreement like we are today on a month-to-month basis, an annual basis. There's still going to be, obviously, licensing fees associated with the cloud-based service, but it would be less than the investment that we're talking about. So specifically, this number here is what's changing at $956.37. That's where the equipment and those costs reside, as well as our installation and our services. So if there's been no changes over 60 months, you're going to see a reduction in that number.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you provide this service to any other towns in the county?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been doing towns for many years, mostly on this side, but the city of Beacon is one of our clients. We do the town of Walkill, which I think is the second busiest court in the state outside of the city. And they're connected to their highway, DPW, water and sewer, and we're now in migration to do the rest of town halls. They've been a client on the new system, but they were an Awatsu customer like you were, and we're slowly migrating department by department. Town of Blooming Grove, the village of Washingtonville, village of Montgomery, so more on this side than on your side.
So just in Dutchess County, it's the city of Beacon and Wappingers right now?
For townships,
correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We handle, just to give you an idea, with this same product, we have over 1,500 stations with Westchester Medical. We, during this COVID, we set up their COVID hotline, and we're handling thousands of calls per day. And so one of the things that we did was, you're able to make changes very, very quickly with the product. And so them, as well as Columbia Doctors, St. John Riverside Hospital, Elmwood Hospital, these are all clients using the same product that we're proposing to you.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Bill, Councilman Beal, that I would like to look over this presentation a little bit more. But thank you for the information.
You're welcome.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Keith. We'll get back to you.
Sounds good.
Appreciate
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate all the hard work. Okay, take care. I guess you can log off then. Okay. The next item is Mike Sheehan. Mike?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Am I?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
All right, did you all get the list today of the years the roads that I wanted to pave were between 15 and 24 years old? Did anybody get that?
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
All right. Okay, the original price I was looking for was $1,015,50. I'm going to work extra hard with the blacktop crew, and the estimate I'm shooting for is $963.77. That's a savings of a little over $51,000. But if we're going to bond, we might as well bond for the $1,015,000 in case something happens, like weather turns bad or whatever it is, like that. But does anybody have a question on the roads that I wanted to pave?
No, thank you for that list today, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, those roads that I looked at, Bruce Road, I can't even sweep most of them. I have to, the sweeper can go up the middle and back down one side because the sweeper sucks up everything, destroys it, and then we start putting down pads that don't stay that long either. So those are the roads, the worst ones that I look for. And anybody want to take a ride with me and look at the roads that I want to pave? I'll be more than happy to come get you and drive around the road to show you.
So, Mike, in order to get these better prices, right, we have to pay within a certain period of time, correct?
Yeah, I'm hoping if everything's all good, if I pave in June, I'll get the better price. I've talked to Mark Pfeiffer, he's paving now. I talked to Mike Kelly from LaGrange, he's getting ready to pave. And Kenny Williams from East Fishkill, he's only going to pave his longest road. He's going to pay out for it, he's going to have a contractor do it. And then all the other roads, he's got a paver. And he's going to do all the rest of the roads himself. He's going to try it anyway, so. But
I don't see any roads from Ward 1 on this list again this year.
Bill, we talked about the roads. Bill, your Suchik place will be on next year. We're not going to do it because of the construction on Old Hopewell. And Bill, what other roads do you have? All your other ones were paved already in the past 4 years. I mean, besides Old Troy Road, but that's going to need some major work according to Tom Harvey.
Yeah.
I mean, we did Blizzard Cameli, Curry, part of Ketchumtown, Woodland Court. I don't know where else we can pay right now, Bill. The Marlinville extension down to the Wappingers Creek is getting bad, but I think that's got a few more years on it.
Okay. Yeah, so
I have a
Bill,
question.
And again, if anybody wants to take a ride with me, and I'm more than happy to pick these up and show you what, the roads that I picked. And there's a reason for the roads I picked. I've been working here for 30 years, I know.
I have a question. How much money do we have in chips?
I think it was $263.
And how much money do we have left over from last year?
406, I believe.
Yep, 400.
That's right, 406, that's what Frederick said.
And that's not enough to do what we have to do?
No.
How could we have to bond? I don't understand. Help me
So what-
understand, please.
So it's gonna cost us $1,015,000 to do all the roads, so it's 5.29 miles, and we only have, it's really 406 plus 220 for chips is what we're using, so we have 626, so it's $1,015,000 versus 626, roughly 400K to do all the roads we need to do. That's why we have to bond.
Right, but my understanding is we voted on this at the last meeting. We're spending 406,000 plus 220, I believe, the authorized amount was to start this process. And then we were going to evaluate where we stand as we see the fiscal picture here.
I
Am
agree.
wrong?
So the issue here, right, is, so number one, you're getting good pricing, and number two, bond rates are lower than.
You're
they
never
ever
gonna
been.
get
We
the
actually
price
went-
again for the paving.
What's
And I
that?
talked to Williams and Mark Pfeiffer. This is, if you're gonna pave, they say this is the year to do it. You get the more bang for your buck. And I agree with them. Mike Kelly is bonding $500,000 for his paving.
Did we not vote on this already?
I believe we did.
And we voted on it, but I think he's raising the point again, Bill, because of the savings that he could get. I believe that was it.
So there's two
And
savings.
also,
again,
Bill, if I start paving now, to have him come back and finish if everything looks good, it's not gonna be, cost worthy. If I got him here, I would like to complete everything, to get him in and get him out. I got other projects I gotta start doing, so, it's gonna be tough.
All right,
Start
so,
paving in June and then stop and then go back to paving.
so let me better understand this then. Frederick, the $400,000 that we discussed at the last meeting is in the general fund for paving, is that correct?
No, it's actually the capital fund. We have leftover from the previous year, so about 406,000. It's not in the general fund; it's in the capital account.
But it's cash, right? It's not.
Yes, it's cash,
That's
yes.
right, cash.
So then that's 406,000 plus the anticipated CHIPS money was how much, Frederick?
I think it's going to be about 270,000, not because we have received about 270 for the last couple of years. I do not see why we should receive less. So about 270,000, yes.
All right, then the total paving cost was $1,015,000. Is that correct?
Yes, so I think the difference is about $340,000 that you need from somewhere.
And what is your recommendation for financing the $348,000?
I know we did get a bit of a windfall from the sales growth for 2019. Between the B and the DB fund, we got 600,000. I would say let's take it from either DB or B, take the amount and use it and not go to bonding.
My concern, though, is utilizing fund balance when we don't know what this fiscal picture is going to look like in 2020. That's my concern.
I agree.
So you just,
Things are gonna get tighter than they are right now.
so right now, the B fund where the money is, right, there's, a significant amount of money there in excess of $4 million. This is gonna cost, at the time, when we thought we were gonna bond, $400,000 over 15 years, it was gonna cost us $31,000 a year. So I don't think $31,000, when you have a fund balance of over $4 million, is gonna make or break the bank. And again, that's what's gonna continue for the next 15 years. And oh, by the way, the interest rate now is at 2%, Bill. So before we were looking at a 2.5%, we're now at 2%. We just got that from NOAA, our bond council. So it's a pretty good rate to bond at. And they also recommended, and I think Dick and Jim Moran were also on copy, and I think Fritter may have been as well, but they also suggested, again, this is gonna probably be some of the lowest rates you're gonna see in a long time. So, for 31,000 to do, 1 million and change, 5.3 miles is a pretty good number. Again, 31K a year.
So the $31,000 debt service is on the total cost of the project, or is that the delta, the difference between the CHIPS and the capital reserve?
So the
Difference between the, sorry.
400,000, if we got a bond for 400,000, so we'll pay $31,000 a year until completion of the bond.
By the way, we're now not on television. I'm getting text messages. Dick's front porch episode is playing right now, so I don't know why that's happening, but it is.
Joey, are you there?
I can hear you, Dick.
Yeah, I
can hear you, Dick.
don't know who. I was asking if Joey's there to check.
I just sent Joey a text message too, letting him know.
Oh, yes, I'm here. Hold on,
Can you check with the video, check with them and see what's happening?
yes,
Goes, Bill says.
yes, I'm verifying.
Don't we typically bond for 2 years running? Typically?
That's what we did so in 2018, we bonded for 2 years, for 2018 and 2019.
Right.
But this is, it's a different year.
So at the 400,000 and the plan for next year at 2%, getting that money on the cheap?
Right, so that's we are not only going to bond for the paving, there's also the HVAC upgrades that is coming up in July.
Right.
And we could take advantage of this and paving of 400,000 to the HVAC bond of 1.3 million.
Be an answer.
It's because funds. So again, Chris suggested, you know, necessarily have to use that money depending on how the circumstances are for, you know, our financial situation. So that's something else, you know, we should consider too. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to do it if you want it.
You know,
Again, that is what?
1,000 a year.
For how many years?
Right.
15.
15.
And our fund, what do you anticipate? Well, you can't right balance.
4.8 million.
Okay. We've more. Paving almost. Is that a responsible thing to do? I think the is. It is based on the cost of.
That would be what I would say, but I would defer that to Mike because he's getting a good price on the asphalt too.
Price if it happens in June, and I think it's come June, the middle of June, if I can start June.
Before, you quote us the price at $63, right?
Yes.
And so you can do a little better than that. So
I didn't want to promise you, but I got quoted maybe $61.75 from Dale. They said they might be able to do that, and that's what I'm hoping for. But I didn't, you know, I don't want to. That's why I want to still bond for the $1,015,000. If it goes to 62, that's still great. That's still a great price because next year you probably won't be able to touch blacktop under $80 a ton. So again, I mean, I did my work. I worked hard on it, me and Carol, and I hope to save. I hope to do it for the price that I said, $963,770. I hope it can be done like that. That's a savings of $51,000, and I'm hoping for that. So, and that's all I can.
what do we have to do to look
information as soon as possible so that we can, go ahead with the bonding of 400,000. Because the longer it delays, we may not be able to get all the necessary documentation in time to the debt council and to the financial advisor. If we are thinking of combining this bond with the HVAC one that is due July 30th.
And our bond counsel and financial advisors are all on board. I mean, we've been discussing this with them as a possibility, so I think they're up to speed basically with, going forward based on whatever numbers we plug in.
The other question is, in the past, I think as Frederick had noted, or Chris had noted as well, we had, to reduce the borrowing cost, we had done 2 years, in essence, 2 years worth of bonding, and estimated that you would, the bond, and that's the reason why you have that leftover money, which is from a prior bond. So, if you're thinking next year, you're not going to have that $400,000 that's available if you only borrow $400,000. So you're looking at, if you only borrow $400,000 this year, next year, you're probably looking at about $300,000 to do the roads unless you're going to bond next year for the amount. So that's where the 400,000 is left over from, as Frederick noted, it's a capital account from a prior payment bond issuance.
Didn't we have a preliminary figure for next year?
We did, Chris, 1.7. We were gonna do $3 million in total, 1.3 million this year and 1.7 million next year for over 7 miles worth of road we were gonna pave next year. So we did have that number.
A major rebuild of Old Troy Road, which I think we're getting to the point where we're going to need to do it. I mean, that's,
Right.
Mike had looked at that.
So would it make sense to bond for 2.1? Again, you only pay on what you borrow, have the money available at the lower 2%, and then use what's deemed prudent?
I think that's the right way to go, Chris.
Then what would the debt service be is my question.
So we got what, 31 on the 4, right, Frederick?
No, I didn't get the amount for bonding for next year. How much are we planning to bond for next year, considering bonding?
Say you did 1.7.
Or for the 2 years?
No, we did 400,000 for this year, and say Al said we had preliminary of 1.7 for next year. So if we combine those
So 2.1 million combined at a 2% rate over 15 years.
So,
93 million a year.
162,000.
I heard 3 different numbers.
Me too. But do we have the one number, please?
So, if we bonded $2.1 million for paving this year, 2%, that would be approximately 170,000 a year in debt service costs.
So then, but they would be staggered, right? 31 for what you use this year, then the balance.
No.
Starting next year, no?
No, once you bond, then the payment starts, as soon as it starts next year.
So you might as well draw the whole thing and put it in the bank.
But the problem is that this year our debt service is still higher. We only go down a little bit, as Frederick pointed before, and keep in mind, we have a tax cap cushion of only 165,000. I think it's 165,000, isn't Frederick?
About 169, yeah.
Okay, I was off 4,000. So, we had that issue, whereas I think, Frederick, the chart that you did from the point of view of debt service going down, next year, the next few years are going down, further, but this year we still have a tight gap. We don't go down that much, correct?
Yes, we only have a reprieve of about 173,000 comparing the debt service of 2020 and 2021 there's only going to be a reduction of 173,000.
Right.
So, as soon as you draw the bond, the debt service is on the total bond, not what you draw?
Right, right.
Yeah, you're taking out the bond amount of money. That's what the market line. Yes.
So if you draw $2.1 million, even though you're only going to use 400,000, you have to start paying on the total $2.1 million.
Right. That's the issue. And
But
then
The debt service is 1 year out.
yes, 1 year out. That's correct. Yep.
It starts in 2021.
Yep.
Well, then I think the approach should be to only bond what we need to bond at this point.
Right.
I agree, Bill. I think at this point, even though it might be a better price, but I think that's the prudent thing to do. Bond it.
We just have to be careful. We have to be very, very careful because we don't know what's going to happen.
So with respect to the bond so there's two issues. One is, what does the bond resolution say? So that's the maximum amount you can borrow based on that bond resolution.
Right.
And then the second is, so let's say, for example, you made a bond resolution of $2 million. You don't have to issue $2 million worth of bonds. Let's say, for example, you issued $1.4 million worth of bonds. You would pay the debt service on the $1.4 million, not on the bond resolution amount. The debt service is only on the amount that you borrow.
Actually,
That was my question. So
Right.
if you bonded for 2.1, you can then use 400,000 this year.
Well, you're gonna only have one issue.
Bonded, you've had a resolution to bond, but you haven't actually bonded it. You haven't taken.
Oh, okay.
So
That's just word difference.
All right, so if it's going to cost us $31,000 a year to fund the paving, essentially for this this project, since we have cash and we have chips, right? It's going to the net cost is going to be $31,000 a year times 15 years for us to get the 6 miles of road done this year. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct. Yes.
All right, so the other option would be to spend the $348,000 instead of bonding it to take it from our fund balance. However, I don't think we want to do that right now because we don't know what the future beholds here in the coming months. So I see your strategy now, and I'm willing to entertain it. My recommendation would be to formalize the rates and put things on paper, and we can move forward once we have it on paper, unless we have it on paper.
I think we have it on paper already.
Okay.
Who would know if we have it on paper?
It might be, was it emailed to us, or is it in the packet?
I
Anybody have
emailed
it?
you, Paul.
I don't know, Bill. I've seen it, but
We got something from NOAA, but if we need to get something official at the 2%,
yeah, I think we should. Noah was just talking. I mean, it was good advice, but I think we should get some of
the interest rate is not, the interest rate happens when they issue the bond.
Right.
So you can't, it's not like a mortgage where you sign up ahead of time for a particular interest rate.
Right.
Bond is issued and people bid on it, and based on what's bid, at the time is what the interest rate is. So, we issue the bond, and so what Noah's giving you is what numbers are out there right now. But until the bond issue is made, you're not going to know what the interest rate is.
so Bill, if it goes from 2 to 2.5%, it goes from 31,000 to 32,000 per year.
Okay, so put together the resolution, whatever we need to do. If it's going to be a $31,000 to $32,000 impact to capitalize on the low price for asphalt and to capitalize on the low rates right now, I think that's responsible because we are maintaining the rest of funding in our fund balance.
right.
So I would be willing to support that.
So as far as the bond resolution, what are we looking at an outside number for the 2 years?
I think they're only thinking of 1 year.
Yeah, one.
Yeah, we're only thinking of 1 year, Jim. Just the 400,000.
Okay.
I know we probably want to do it for 2 to save closing costs and everything else, but I think right now the board is only looking to do this year only and see how our financial picture is next year.
Frederick, question, how does the ban refinancing, or are you going to taking that out in a bond rather than renewing the ban, does that play into this? Can we mix the two, or is one separate from the other?
Yes, I think Noah had said that we can combine the two, and that's what he was kind of advocating for, because the rates are really low right now, and also because we have already spent the money for the HVAC. It's just a matter of when are we going to go for permanent financing, which is bonding. So do we do it this year, or next year, or the year after next? We only have up to 5 years to postpone the permanent finance.
And refinancing the ban now through a bond, we would be getting a lower interest rate. So what I'm suggesting, Bill, is maybe as we look at not just the highway, but we look at a combined one, because we do have that expense, and we have the ban coming up in another month or so that has to be done.
Right.
It's just an option too, right?
The problem is you have to have a bond resolution for a particular project.
Okay.
Well,
You can't adopt a bond resolution with no specified purpose.
No, well, I thought, Noah said we could combine the highway along with the HVAC system, and then we have two purposes. Combined with.
Yeah, but then you'd have to adopt because the period of paving. So pavement has a 15-year probable useful life. The improvements at the highway garage may have a different one. So, and then what happens is the issuance is typically the lowest probable useful life of any of the.
All I'm suggesting is that since we're not voting on a bond resolution tonight, right, we look at this and then get back to the board with advice as to how we treat those two matters, right? Since we do have to deal with the ban renewal or new bonding within a relatively short period of time. That's all I'm saying, is let's look at it, that way, so the board can have the full picture. I can have the full picture.
Frederick, what's the balance on that ban loan or ban, and what's the debt service on it right now?
So right now it was a short-term borrowing, which was to mature in July of this year, July 30th. And the only thing we have to pay is some interest, about $10,000 of interest. And we can continue doing that, and maybe a little bit of principal every year until up to 5 years. But we cannot go beyond 5 years. Noah had suggested that if possible, because rates are really low, we combine it with the paving bond. And we don't really need a resolution, because we already have a resolution that enabled us to go for the short-term borrowing. So the decision we'll be making today is whether to go for permanent bonding or not. But we don't need a resolution. The resolution is there.
So basically, is a ban loan just like a bridge loan for municipalities?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So I agree with Noah. Now's the time to convert the ban to permanent financing.
Yeah, that's why I raised it at this point.
I have no objection to moving forward on the process for both of these initiatives right now. I think it's prudent.
So do we need a bond resolution now for the $400,000 for the paving, or are we going to combine them?
No, well, let's look at it. Bill asked, and I support it, make sure we have all the facts, information down, and then we look at the combined or, separate one.
Well, bond counsel's got to prepare the resolution.
Bond counsel has to do it, along with the financial advisors.
What I would say is have bond counsel prepare the resolutions and get the paving started. I have no objection to the highway superintendent starting the process. We have cash on hand to start this.
I agree.
Very good.
Okay.
Do we have the general consent? Anybody have any concerns about that approach? I'm in favor.
I'll make a motion just to authorize the highway superintendent to start the paving.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any nays, abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Okay, thank you, folks. Thank you, Mike, for your hard work.
Yes, thank you all.
Okay, hey, Mike, don't leave.
Yes.
Are you here?
No, I'm
Okay.
not gonna.
Okay, so the second issue is the recycle yard, okay? So we've been getting a number of inquiries as the permitting is going out, people are building things and doing stuff to get outside. There's residential interest in reopening. I got the approval from the county executive and Ron Hicks today that so long as we own that yard, which we do, we are allowed to reopen it at this time. I was thinking Saturday, Mike said he could do it. So long as Mike follows and he's already prepared with PPE, vehicle control flow, so there doesn't get to be overcrowding, any risks to his men. Mike has that all ready to go if we agree with that. But the county executive and his office has said that we can go ahead to do that starting this Saturday if we want.
I think that's a great idea.
Needed.
I think we need to roll with it. There's people that have accumulated rubbish that needs to be brought down there. I would just say that if we can please,
What are you trying to say, Bill?
if we can please make sure that our staff and anyone up there with our brand is following the best practices, PPE, no unnecessary socializing unless you're wearing PPE, so that we don't have anyone complaining that we're not following the rules.
Right.
And that was my commitment.
I think it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna, that will be.
Letters, so because residents need to see this,
Right.
that it is gonna be open on Saturday, something needs to be posted on the website, please.
Yeah, well, I don't know, we'll plan to do that. Yeah, Bill, that was my commitment to the county executive as well, that we would follow that, and I personally said I'll go out to the yard on Saturday and inspect, but Mike's assured me, that we'll do that, so, that's the plan, but I agree with you, Angela, especially.
Just
Also, while Mike is here, I gotta thank him and his crew for all the mulch out at the airport. It was lovely, Mike, it's a great job, thank you.
All right, thank you.
So
I'm gonna deliver more on Thursday.
Great.
Jim, I don't think we need any special resolution for that. I think we just go ahead doing it since it was really under orders and, all that, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think you need a
Okay,
resolution.
we'll go ahead and
Joey's gotta post it.
we will post it tomorrow. I'll write
Yeah,
up.
if Mike, you could prepare something this way I can post it, that would be great.
Mike, let me review it first, and then we'll get it posted tomorrow, okay?
And then also the mulch too, that would be great, if you can let me know when you're doing mulch.
And it's gonna be on Saturday and Wednesday, am I correct?
Yes, yeah. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could we post the hours again to remind people for both days, please?
Sure.
Yeah, those are already posted, Angela, but, they will be.
We'll do it in this notice, Angela.
You need to give them a gentle reminder, because it's been
Of course.
so much. Thank you.
Angela, I get probably 50 calls a day about the recycling center. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people, they're trying to, like Bill said, a lot of people have got the itch, the spring fever. They want to clean up. I've been letting people come up as long as they call me ahead of time, and I make sure they get in and get out safely.
Yeah.
So
Well, don't
people
get
are
that
happy about
around.
that.
Well, Mike, don't get that around, because constituents are calling me, asking me when it's supposed to be open, and I'm saying soon. So I don't get special treatment to
Tipping
anybody.
point, well, I think
Thank you.
everybody, when they've had a special need, they always call. And I do want to also mention that, again, thanks to the board as well, we've gotten a lot of compliments about reopening the tennis court before Memorial Day weekend. So I think we're doing again for the residents. So, a lot of compliments.
one more
All the work
question.
somebody did on the sign.
More question on the recycle center question. What is the process by which residents can buy permits right now? Is the town clerk able to issue those?
Thank you, Bill. Thank you.
Good question. Joe, how do we propose to do that?
How do we propose? Well, am I allowed to let people in the front doors? Your front doors?
Well, no, not now.
So then you tell me how I do it. I can do it through my window. I have a front window that I do the marriage licenses through. But other than that, they can still continue to do it by mail the way we've been doing it.
Yeah.
What if we give the constituents a break until we get the town hall open, that they don't have to have that permit. Just for a limited period of time. Because we've been closed since March. Just
Probably gonna
give
be
them
a lot of money lost because people are gonna be up there. I got a feeling the line's gonna be down the road come, Saturday. So we're probably gonna lose money on the dumpsters if we don't come up with some kind of idea here to get the people a pass.
Because people have passes now.
Right.
You're
I know.
talking about new passes.
Actually, you're correct. Most of the people have their passes.
Right. This is just for new passes.
Okay.
And garbage tickets.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So I think it would be prudent for us to maybe give them a break. Just for a month.
Right now, 1,704 tickets have been sold. And usually it's about 2,700. So there's 1,000 more out there.
So what are you proposing? We have some level of amnesty or just not on renewals or what?
For new ones.
For new ones? So that basically means that anybody can go there then?
No, everybody has a ticket now.
Oh,
If you don't have a ticket, you don't go.
So for existing permit holders that may have not renewed, they would be able to go? Is that true?
Joe, you can issue by mail, right? If they
Yeah,
send
we've been issuing by mail regularly.
No, I would say, people that haven't issued can go there, then they submit we're doing so much more by mail, and then they submit the request to Joe, and we put that online. Say, hey, look, if you don't have a permit, then request it online, send in your money, and Joe will issue it.
Does
Is
Joe
that
have a
online
doc-
right now, Dick? Is that
Pardon me?
online right now?
No.
Is that online right now? Because the people have no idea.
We
I
have to
tell them
put
to
it
go on the
online.
website.
It's
Yeah.
not online.
It's
We
what
don't
on
need to do that.
The permit.
About
The
payment.
application for the permit.
No, there's no application for the permit. It's an
Okay.
automated system. They just what they do is just send us their driver's send us their check if they're already in the system. If not, send us their registration and their driver's
Copy of that and a check, yeah. But we can clarify that on the internet, Angela, and on the town website.
But everybody who has had a permit is in our automated system.
Right.
And all they have to do is send us the check. We've sent out mailers every year saying it's time to renew, send us your check, and we send them their permit.
That's what I
Seems to be working today, so why change it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, let's do it that way then. We'll get a notice out there with these several items that have been raised, and then say anybody that doesn't have a permit, submit it, through the mail, request to go.
And
Then we can say, here's what you need if you're new. If you're old, it's in the system, just send us the check.
right, and I can put it on the town clerk webpage.
Right.
I can update that.
Yeah.
Tonight,
Okay,
right
well,
now.
let's coordinate the message and
Thank
do
you.
that, Joe. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay?
All right, I'm still on Dick. I'm still doing 3 recreation guys and 3 highway guys, right? Nothing
Yes.
changed there.
Yes.
Okay.
Once we
Very
reopen,
good.
that's correct. Yep.
Just make sure
Very good.
face coverings and if you need any, let me know. I got them.
Yeah.
Okay, Bill, I will.
Social distance and wipe down equipment, right? What we've been doing anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, they do it anyway.
Yeah. No, they've been good. I've been seeing that. So, go ahead. Okay.
Yep. So this Saturday, I can do it this Saturday.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, a few days to get prepared, get the message out there. So that's why not Wednesday. That's tomorrow. That's not enough time. But we'll start Saturday
Yeah.
and renew
tomorrow.
continue with the regular schedule starting Saturday. Okay? Everybody
Yep.
on board?
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, Mike. Thank the men for it.
No
too.
problem.
Thank you, Mike.
No
Okay.
problem, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Is there any more questions for me?
Well, yeah, but we'll handle that offline. You don't need to worry about that.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking. It's fine. Thank you. Go home.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Okay, thanks. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Doesn't anybody need a break? I'm just asking, trying to.
Hopefully that doesn't mean we're at the halfway point.
No, well, I hope we're beyond that, but because I'll table.
We could call, you could call a recess, Dick, if you wanted to. We could freeze everything if you wanted.
No, that's all right. Let's move in because we're going to have an executive session. We have to break out on a couple of things. So let's move ahead, and then I'll simplify a little bit this. Jessica, it's your turn. To talk about summer camp and so forth.
All right, that's why I'm like, don't take a break, it's my turn.
No. Go ahead. 5 minutes.
Got it. All right, so the changes since the last time that I spoke to you are just in terms of more people who've made their decisions on opening or closing camp. I still hold very firmly, in my opinion, that we should not hold camp this year for a variety of reasons, which after I go through the who's closed list, I can re-go through for anybody who has a question. So as of this moment, and decisions are getting made every day, the town of Amenia, the town of East Fishkill, the city of Kingston, the town of LaGrange, the town of New Windsor, the town of Rhinebeck, the town of Unionville, and the town of Washington are all closed. Two towns that are open are Fishkill and Poughkeepsie. And part of the reason for that is they do model more childcare-like hours with their programs running to 5:30, 6 o'clock. Again, this is based on the information that we have right now. I think if you've been watching some of the governor's updates, you've seen that the state attitude towards the opening of summer camp is starting to change as well. And there is the possibility that even the two municipalities near us that have decided to be open will not open because the state may issue a mandate that camps do not open. And that is coming on the heels of the new symptoms and new presentations of COVID-19 in small children. And I can go back over any other reason that I listed the last time we spoke, but I feel just as confident now, if not more so, that opening camp is not the right thing for us as a town.
Thank you.
Any questions for Jessica? Any comments?
Well, I happened to see the governor's press conference when he said he wouldn't send his own kids to day camp.
Yes.
So I'm not feeling too confident about being able to offer summer camp, and the reason why is, yes, we are starting to return to some normalcy here, but I still think there's a number of unknowns relative to this illness that's affecting children.
Correct.
Agreed. And my son and daughter-in-law say this, medical doctors, and she's a pediatric anesthesiologist, and she's saying the same thing too. So it's scary, actually.
I think that every municipality kind of has their own top reason of why they decided that camp was not the best for them, ranging from liability to training and staff safety. My number one issue with a lot of the guidance on what we've been given if we wanted to open is that we are putting our staff, many of whom are quite young, on the front line of recognizing symptoms of a disease that medical professionals don't even have a full grasp on what those symptoms are in children. That's a big risk for the town to be taking.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I talked at some length with the East Fishkill supervisor, Nick D'Alessandro, and they were very concerned, and their lawyers advising them as well on the liability issue. So they decided, for the reasons Jessica said, but also liability, and also they've apparently been getting a lot of negative pushback by a lot of parents, for doing it, because if they did it, the parents don't want the kids to go, but if their friends were going, then they might be pressured to do it, and they just didn't want to be put in that situation. So that's what Nick told me.
Yeah, and feedback will be split. There will be some understanding and some upset, whichever way we went, but not opening is really the right way to go.
I think if, as Marcus is telling me, the polls are indicating about 65 to 75% of the people in the county either don't want to open, I'm not talking about camp, but generally, or to do it very reasonably, then I think that, yes, we would have people that are, it's difficult because two people go back to work, babysitters cost money, they don't have money, and grandparents can't sit anymore. So that does put some into a difficult position. Hoping maybe with some of your digital activities, you can do something that's more creative, because I know some employers are being more creative about setting up rooms and doing some things on the manufacturing floor or other areas to do that. So we can look at some other programs that maybe you and I, Jessica, had talked about some shorter programs that were, based in some of our other parks, so that there might be something, that could be done if we see things get better. But currently, from what I'm hearing, is that on phase 4, that's not going to be till July, at this point in time, as far as, middle of July. So I think that puts anything that you need to prepare for summer camp really beyond the point at this point.
And at a financial disadvantage for us, because we have to spend money now. Pretty much, we're at the deadline for, if we're going to try to run camp as we run it usually, we would have to spend that money within the next 5 days. So to get those orders in. Oh, good night, Liam. So we would have to be doing that now. We need to make that decision tonight whether we're going to start putting out that money to do it or not.
The other issue too is based on, the CCC's issued some preliminary guidance for certain outdoor activities, most of which, require social distancing. So from a staffing point of view, you're either going to have to reduce the number of attendees by half or double the staff. So, financially, I don't know if that makes it work.
Yeah. And restricting the activities, the number of activities that we would have to restrict to based off of the CDC and the county guidelines are getting really close to everybody sit 6 foot apart from each other and here's a coloring book.
And even our insurance carrier, and you look at Perman and so forth, they're strongly discouraging it or putting requirements in place that mean summer camps are very, very difficult to do.
So maybe, Jessica, one of the things you can take a look at is when we did a tour over at Martz Field, looks like some of the stuff you might be able to clean up some of that room there by the bathrooms. So that'll give you some time to do that now, because now you don't have the camp counselors there. So clean that up and see what you need for supplies. If you're thinking about 2021, et cetera.
And that's one of the other things that I did want to quickly bring up tonight is the retention of our summer camp director, Cheryl. I know it sounds like you're not having summer camp. Why would you need your summer camp director? But we're looking into launching a lot of virtual programming and virtual activities through the summer. And especially if we're going to be doing this ramping up towards reopening, I'm going to have a lot that suddenly starts happening quickly in terms of field rentals, other things that we have happening. So having Cheryl on to be a partner in getting all of this virtual programming out to the public is going to be very helpful, more than helpful.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to talk with the board just briefly in executive session about something related to that. So, but I think that it's a good idea, and as Jessica and I have discussed, there are a number of virtual programs that we can do or do from distance, and both with respect to youth, seniors, and also 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and so forth. Right? So I think I would suggest that we consider to retain her for that and perhaps some other recreation purposes if she's willing.
Jessica, could you send us over some of these ideas and programs just to keep us, up to date on everything that's going on?
Yeah, I've been asking to get the schedule out, so yes, she needs to do that this week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have a toolbox right now of more than we could ever actually go through with doing, but I can send you over some of our top 10 for right now.
Thank you very much.
What's the dates that the camp usually runs from again?
The Monday after school closes for 7 weeks. So this year that would have been June 29th through August 15th, I think was that Friday?
14th.
Or the 14th, yeah.
So assuming that phase 4 doesn't begin till the week of July 9th at the earliest? Is that where?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
You're talking, 3 or 4 weeks you would have left, or?
We would have, I believe it came like to 4 weeks would have been the camp program if we go with when phase 4 right now is slated to start. And I think we all know that that is still subject to change. So.
All right, well, we're gonna have to make a policy decision right now, in my opinion.
Right, I agree, that's what I just want. So I think like the other areas, shutting down other possibility, I think we have, little choice but to do that, Bill.
So, my position would be, as I said, in looking at overall safety and looking at overall proper management under CDC guidelines, I think that, unfortunately and regretfully, we're gonna have to cancel our day camp program this year, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that, and I agree with Councilman Beal that, the safety and the unknowing, and again, what you mentioned before, the new children virus that's cropping up that nobody really has a handle on as well.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay, and get to us, so I'll talk with you, Jessica, about some of the items that you and I still have to discuss, and we'll get that out this week to everyone, okay?
All right.
Moving on to sign, Jim, I know I saw some email, haven't had a chance to thoroughly, read them, but why don't you give us a summary of what information you've been getting?
Okay.
Did you want to do the community signs?
What's that?
Dick had mentioned you wanted to do the community signs with myself.
Oh, okay, come back. I'll let Jim talk about this. We'll come back to that.
Okay. If you want to, okay.
Okay, you're talking about the Wappinger Unsung Hero.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Briefly mention that. I forgot.
Okay. All right. So those signs are in. They look really great. That's the quick version of it. Tomorrow, I was planning to go live with opening us up for nominations online, and also we can put it in the newspaper. And so what we're going to be asking people to submit is actually very broad in comparison to me usually trying to be very over specific. And the reason is we want to be able to represent the most broad spectrum of people and frontline and essential workers that we can. So what we're asking folks to submit to us is basically the name of the candidate, the municipality of the candidate, the municipality that the nominator lives in, because if the nominator is the person who wants to put the sign on their lawn, we'd like them to be in Wappinger as well. And then about the occupation of the person. We can always circle back and ask them for any additional information if we need to. First round priority is going to go to anyone who submits an application who the person that they're recognizing does have to live in Wappinger regardless, and the person who is putting out the sign both live in Wappinger. At second round, if we have any left over, we do have 100 signs. I'm hoping we don't have any left over, but if we do, then it would go to people who perhaps their home and the place where they want to put the sign is in, say, Poughkeepsie, but they're honoring someone from Wappinger. So say, for example, somebody wanted to nominate me. We'll go with my uncle. My uncle wants to nominate me. My uncle lives in the town of Poughkeepsie, but I live here, I work here. He wants to put it on his lawn to recognize me as a Wappinger Unsung Hero. That would be part of the second round of passing them out, and only if we've covered that first round of people completely.
So is this all on the website now? People know what to do, instructions?
No.
Tomorrow, if you guys are okay.
I told her to hold off the board. I didn't look at it, if the board wanted to look. She's written it up, I haven't looked at it to QC it, but I didn't put it out there yet until we had a chance to just consider it.
So can we see it first before it goes live on the town website?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Still send it out.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I need to look at it too.
It came in Friday afternoon at like 2 o'clock, and it was.
The signs are nice, she delivered one to, to me to look at it, so, but just completed the nomination proposal today or so, thank you. Yeah, we'll get that, she'll get that over to you right away.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, your turn. Give us an update on the information you're getting from Cornell and elsewhere.
Okay, so try to share my screen.
Thank you for that, Jim.
Is that screen being shared?
Yeah, I see.
Yes, see it.
Okay. So, so with respect to the child with autism sign, the end of April, New York State DOT adopted the sign and published it in the state register. This is the configuration that is required. The sign says child with autism, and then it also has to be posted with a pedestrian sign as well. They both have to be on the same pole. I don't think that the sign is, we have signs around that say autistic child, I believe is the wording of the old sign. So, so the wording, this is the wording that's now required by the DOT. And there's some conditions here regarding when this sign may be used. The child with autism has to be under the age of 18. The average daily traffic volume on the road has to be less than 2,000 vehicles. The speed limit for the road has to be 35 miles per hour or less, and the highway has to be residential in nature. So, it can't be a commercial street, can't be in an industrial neighborhood, or some question as to, if you had it in a farm area where you have a rural road, I don't think it would be appropriate there based on the way the MUTCD talks about residential signs. So, Cornell Local Roads just typed up some guidance regarding these signs. David Orr shared it with me Wednesday night. One of the things that he suggests, which isn't here, I had mentioned this last time, we need to get authorization from the person who's requesting the sign. For purposes of, I think we need to get an indemnification from the person requesting the sign. We had a discussion regarding special relationship. So one of the things in municipal law, as a general rule, municipalities are not responsible for any acts of third parties for the most part. So one of the things that the indemnification and disclaimer should say is that the posting of this sign does not create any kind of special relationship between the town and the person who it's intended to cover. I'm going to float that by to see what the insurance carrier thinks of that. But there is a potential for liability. When you're engaging in essence singling a person out. The textbook example of a special relationship is with respect to crime victims. So a municipality has no general obligation to keep any particular member of the public. The exceptions being things like someone in the witness protection program or something like that, where the town is taking affirmative steps to try to ensure the safety of some person who's specifically identified. So that's one of the things that kind of raises a flag with respect to these signs. The other thing is that the sign should probably be placed in a location where there's no blind curb and things of that sort. So one of the issues that is raised is the guidance specifically requires that the average daily traffic volume is less than 2,000 vehicles. The question is, how is that going to be determined? My recommendation would be that the person requesting the sign provide the traffic study. A traffic count is a relatively straightforward thing to do. And on county roads and some of the roads in the town, based on, some actions before the planning board, we may have counts regarding the various roads.
Well, also, the Dutchess County Transportation Council, Jim, has done a really amazing compilation of roads, throughout, the county. A lot of them in the town, side streets and so forth, probably not, but,
right.
Most of the major thoroughfares, both, county, town, and state, have that information. And I mentioned it before, and we can, look at it on that map. They have an up-to-date interactive map that we could look at.
Yeah, but based on this guidance, I don't think the sign's appropriate on a county or state road.
Oh, I agree, but we can see what roads are covered by that study. That's all.
But yeah, so if somebody's on a county or a state road, I don't think the sign.
No, I agree.
Notwithstanding the fact that we don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah, and the traffic volume's too great.
Right, so that's the thing is, the sign is intended to be on, more residential roads. I mean, if it's a cul-de-sac or something with small, very low traffic volume, I think that's appropriate. But, some of the other roads, 2,000 vehicles a day is a fairly busy road.
Yeah.
So the idea is, what State DOT is saying is they don't want it on busy, they don't want it on a very busy road. That may be the challenge because some of the people who are requesting the sign may be on a busy road.
Right.
So, if anybody doesn't have any questions on that one, let me go to the other issue. We've been having discussions regarding, park signs and prohibitions. I went through and looked at some of the provisions in our code and some of the provisions that we'd like to have that was based in some other codes. And this is a list of 19 things. Toward the bottom, I think we don't necessarily need to have all of them because some of them may not apply. The first would be the hours of operation, no smoking. Here I had suggested the signage is dogs are prohibited on athletic courts and in playground areas. Dogs are permitted in other areas of the park if they are leased, unless the dogs are participating in activities approved by the recreation department. So I know the town has a handful of activities at Airport Park where there's dogs, but I think that's probably the most straightforward way of doing the prohibition. The even shorter way would be just to ban dogs altogether, and I don't know if there's necessarily, any kind of support for that at this point. No firearms, including air rifles, slingshots, bows, arrows, pellet guns, or BB guns. Again, you can kind of, just have no firearms to limit that down. No littering and no household garbage. Steve has said, on a number of occasions that those have been issues, particularly with people bringing household garbage to parks with disposal. And then where receptacles are not available, the litter should be carried away from the park and properly disposed of elsewhere. Again, that doesn't necessarily have to be there, but, I don't know if that's something you want to, again, one of the questions is how much stuff do we want to put on a sign?
We keep getting a lot of requests about littering. I think we need to say something, and it's not just here, it's throughout the town,
No, I mean, this is a list. This is a list of basically items that we've have encountered over the years.
Right.
No unlicensed motor vehicles, including motorcycles, motorbikes, snowmobiles, mini bikes, and all-terrain vehicles in any parks, which is, what a code currently prohibits. Licensed motor vehicles are only permitted on drives and parking areas. As Bill had noted, the old sign, just prohibited them from driving on fields, athletic fields. I found this in another code, but I think it's probably appropriate. And we actually I don't see it anywhere in our code, is no overnight parking of motor vehicles in any park area. No fires, and we have this against in the fire section of the code, no fires except in designated fireplaces or fire pits. I don't know how many we have of those. Do we, Jess or Steve, do we have any fire pits at all? Should we just limit this to no fires?
Not that I'm aware of.
So we would say no, then we could leave it to no fires.
A question about the overnight parking, do we own the parking lot at Mart's? Because that's one where you get a lot of overnight parking because of the trailer homes across the street.
Okay.
So I think we definitely want to think of that.
Okay.
What that changes about what we do, I don't know. But,
Okay.
But we want to keep that in mind.
All right. Good point. I didn't really contemplate that at the time, but okay. And then, so maybe we'll just limit, well, I guess, do we want to prohibit barbecue grills?
We do allow them with park use permit,
Okay.
as long as they do not use it under the pavilion, which is fire code
Okay, so we could say no fires except with
permit.
a use permit.
Yeah.
And what I've been saying is without written permission of the recreation department. So.
That works.
Okay. And then no alcohol beverages without written permission of the recreation department. No hunting. I guess the other question is, do we want to make that without written permission? I don't know, the recreation department or town board. I don't know. We had, I know this is an issue up in town of Poughkeepsie and on Vassar where, they've had a lot of deer problems and they've had canned hunt. They've had, hunts, but I'm not aware of any, animal, deer or other animal issues in the town parks where we've looked to have any kind of hunts to cull herds.
I think that would be a special circumstance. I don't think we put that on a sign. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, and no fireworks. One thing that we don't have, which I think is appropriate, is no person shall erect, post, carry, or distribute any signs, flyers, posters, or placards. I don't know if we've had that issue. We've had the issue in the past, but it doesn't come up too frequently. But I think, people passing out flyers, but again, that's, little leagues or things like that, I don't know. And I guess the other question is, what would fall into that too is, putting flyers and stuff on windshields of cars. So.
Yeah, out at Robinson, Little League typically posts signs on a regular basis.
Yeah, this says, they can post it with permission, but, it's really kind of more, and this is something that is helpful, and again, when you get into political signs or, things like that, if you have a blanket prohibition for posting signs in a park or, things like that, then it can be enforced. Where you don't have those prohibitions, you run into First Amendment questions as to, whether if you're prohibiting somebody's sign or allowing somebody else. So, but that's, and we have a sign code, but I don't believe we have which doesn't necessarily apply to municipal property. And then no person shall ride a horse or pony in any park. No person shall, and this is another issue with ice. I don't know if we have any, if we fill the pond in at Rockingham, then that eliminates that one ice issue there. I don't know, are there any other parks?
Yeah, Reese has a pond.
you got an ice rink at Reese Park. It's advertised as an ice rink.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
It can't be used. It's not safe.
No.
Okay.
That's what it was back in the 60s.
Yep.
So I guess in that question, is it, okay. In some respects, if it's not usable and it's unsafe, I'd take it out.
Well, it can be usable is it's not cleaned out. The boundary is still, a lot of trees and brush and so forth. But people could go skating on there.
Okay.
It's not safe. I think we need to be careful until we do something with that.
Okay.
Not maintained.
No, it's not maintained, correct.
Right. And then
If it were maintained.
Still, if it was maintained though, in 2020, I'd have reservations about allowing people just to go skating there.
Well, we didn't have any real ice there.
And that's the other thing. A lot of times when you are making something publicly available for skating in a park, not so much like a stream or a big lake, something like that, there is a certain expectation of the municipality monitoring.
Yeah,
the safety of it.
That's why building it's not safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the other issue is swimming and boating. I don't know if we've got any, I'm not aware of any facilities. I mean, I know we don't have a pool or anything like that.
Right.
I don't know if we've had any issues with people swimming. I guess out on Sprout Creek, theoretically, somebody was swimming in a creek off our property.
It should be posted for no swimming behind Robinson Lane.
Yeah.
Quiet Acres as well.
Yeah. And then, likewise for no boating, we've got the boat ramp. So.
Well, I think that the boat ramp obviously is for boating, but I would post it for no swimming.
Right.
With the dock out there.
So, and then no camping without. I know in the past we've had, I think it was JROTC people that camped at Carnwath, I believe, but we typically don't have any camping. And then the last one, which I thought was interesting, is no person shall erect any recreation or play equipment in any park without written permission, which would be, if somebody brought their own swing set or, I don't know how far down you drill on that. Does it go to croquet? I don't know.
So we're gonna have to pick and choose, because not all these are for every single park that we have here. So you're gonna put up one sign that has 19 different items, or you're gonna go, as an example, right? If you look at Robinson Lane, you can have something that says no swimming in the back. I mean, how are you gonna do that? Because again, unless you're gonna post all 19, then you have a problem where, well, if you put this down by the boating ramp, I mean, you can't have the same sign down by the boating ramp because they're allowed to go out on the.
I think we put down, like in boating or in a lot of these parks, the principal focus, issues, right? And so boating ramp is focused on a couple key things, whether it's littering, whether it's no swimming, right? We can try to identify opening and closing, etc.
I think maybe posted, say side by side, we have the rules that don't change for any parks. So it's the ones that are universal for absolutely all of them. And then highlighted next to it, kind of those park-specific rules. You know what I mean? So you've got just that really big highlight on, no swimming and no,
So, basically from 12, that's kind of what I did with 1 through 12, pretty much I think apply to all parks. And then, 13, or actually 1 through 13. I don't know about, 14 with riding horses and things like that, but, the last few typically, may vary on the park. I mean, you may allow for people, riding. Do they allow horses on the rail trail? I don't know.
I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so either.
they're not on the rail trail or like Stony Kill or anything like that. No horses.
Okay.
So maybe the way to do it is to split it up like Jessica said into two, because the first, whatever you said, the first 13 or 14 are applicable to all parks, and then the other ones are more specific to other parks.
Right.
Yeah, I think we need a general park rules sign that goes in all the parks, and then you can put up an addendum for each one that has specific, issues that need to be addressed. What I would also change, though, is I believe it's the Parks and Recreation Department now, right? Not just the Recreation Department?
We are.
Okay.
The other thing is, people aren't going to stand there and read 19 bulletins.
I agree. That's why I thought we should focus on.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's why having that second with the highlights of, you might be thinking of doing this in this particular park, it would be helpful, because a lot of the first, 12 or 13, we want people to see them, but they're pretty standard to any park you go to anywhere. You know what I mean?
There's something to consider is the size of the sign, that fit all that on it as well.
Yeah.
But to do something like the highway, you know, the recycle yard, if you were going to have it, all these on there.
Well, just go to Reese Park and look at the sign that's out front. There's 3 different signs with three different sets of rules. They look like, you know, one's from the 60s, one from the 70s, one from the 80s. They just kept adding signs. So when you look at all 3 of them in a row, you basically can't do anything at all in that park. Might as well leave. There's too many rules.
And other areas, bulletin board signs, you know, it's really bad. But I agree, we can't put all of these on one sign for every park. You know, we can focus, we can still have town, you know, code, you know, whatever it is that we establishes. But some of them, I think, the idea is putting swimming signs back along Sprout Creek, you know, then we can deal with that on an isolated basis.
Why would we permit swimming? Why can't we just say no swimming? End of it. Why would we want to open ourselves up to any problems? There's no boating, you know, unless you can't boat. You just
I mean, the boating would be, you know, the only place where boating would be permitted would be at the boat ramp.
Right. So just.
No, that's fine.
You know, the same thing, no fireworks, no ice skating, you know, just a couple words. You don't have to go into a lot of verbiage. I mean, if they don't get it, they're gonna get fined or
Some
something.
of them you could use like universal symbols, like no swimming with a red circle on the line. It's just, you condense it if you could. Some of them might be a little more difficult.
Well, that's another issue. In some respects, we probably have an obligation. I didn't even think of that, but we probably have an obligation to do that.
Universal signs.
Signs, yeah. I mean, no horses, period. Just no horses.
Oh,
No,
horse.
yeah, just no horses, no firearms, no littering. You know, so, you know, any questions, refer to the website, put them on the website, or contact the recreation department.
The other side of this is how do you enforce any of this?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I believe we're covering ourselves by putting certain things on here, but ultimately, at the end of the day, if somebody starts complaining now that, hey, look, they're not following the rules that are posted, we need a mechanism by which we can enforce them.
Yep.
Do we have cameras at all the parks?
I don't think so.
Not all of them, some of them.
Not all of them, I'm working on it eventually, but, you know, currently, not yet.
Okay. Thanks.
I would say don't get any more specific because for security purposes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they're out there for those that are watching. They're out there.
Yep, you may be watched.
Yeah. Well, from a safety perspective, it's always a very good thing, you know, with children and whatever, you know. I think it's key. So, and then we're going to get into the parks are open from dawn to dusk. Some of them are locked. Who's going to unlock them? And that's another thing. Because people will say, well, I went to the park, but it's locked. How come? Yeah. And that's a major issue with some of the parks.
Well, especially Cornwall.
Well,
Quiet
just,
Acres.
you know,
Oh, they're all of them, you know, Castle Point.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. So that's another thing we have to discuss.
We're
How
just.
many Greenway? Sorry.
Go ahead. No, that's right, Bill. Go ahead.
How many Greenway trail wardens do we have now?
We have 2.
Who do they report to?
The supervisor.
I get a report. It's not much. You know, we had talked about, actually had agreed, I think, to have Robbie, you know, to take over that, you know, position. So that's something we need to get back to. But yeah, they don't do a lot right now. They basically clean up the trail.
My thought was maybe we can incorporate opening and closing gates.
Maybe.
I think that's a good idea.
They just need to be given that directive.
Yeah.
But they do clean the trails weekly. I can attest to that. At Carnwalk, they've done a great job.
Yeah.
Well, if we got to pay them a few extra dollars to open and close the gates, I think that's money well spent.
I agree.
I think we might also want to consider parks where there are bathrooms, also considering open bathrooms during the day. A lot of municipalities do that. and especially with a lot of older people playing pickleball, tennis out at marts, we get a lot of requests at marts for those bathrooms to be open during the day. Not as much Castle Point, but definitely at marts.
We don't have porta johns?
Since the bathrooms got upgraded there and we only have camp at one location, we don't put those out there anymore.
You might not get requests from Castle Point because the park's not open, honestly.
Well, the parks are always open to pedestrians. There's nothing to lock out pedestrians. The gates keep the vehicles out. And at Castle Point, there's enough space there to park about 4 vehicles. And
Right,
a number of people do visit there on a daily basis to walk their dog.
Right, but if I have a special needs person, they're not gonna be able to get through, Steve. They can't get through that little opening. So if I have somebody in a wheelchair or a walker, they can't use the park because it's not open.
My concern is when we get into the habit of parking vehicles in front of the gates, and God forbid somebody has a medical emergency deep inside the park, now you can't get in to get them.
True.
That was,
We shouldn't be making a practice in parking in front of the gate as a parking area.
Yeah.
We have to open them.
Yeah, we do.
Now, Jessica had actually proposed in our budget last year, which we chopped out of, having a person that would be responsible for doing that, also turning off and on lights, where we had it, to keep a general eye on those for the key parks. But,
I think they're all good ideas. I think we can come up with something.
You asked about the portable restrooms. We put a bid out earlier in the year. I think we've got the results of that. But with the advent of the COVID virus, we didn't bring them in because of the restrictions that were put in place, for use of restrooms and such. We could get them out there if that's permissible at this time. As and I haven't opened up the permanent restrooms for that reason as well.
right, yeah, well, we've held off on that so far, because then we have to do all that, so we haven't.
Right, which is a smart thing to do. I agree.
That's understandable with the increased decon requirements.
Yeah.
Just
All
like,
right, I guess we should just take it one step at a time here, and as COVID phases out, hopefully we can explore these things.
Exactly.
well, maybe in the meantime, we look at, is there some way to have, what Angela is saying, some commonality, but also with focus on some specific parts, and then we get, Jim, you can look into the obligation to do universal symbols.
Yes, yes.
Rather than words, which some people may not be able to read or focus on, or
Right.
just, eye coordination, all that.
Sure. Okay.
Special needs, because I'd like to get this done sooner than later. We've had many different discussions on it, which are good. I mean, we've made some good progress, don't get me wrong, but I think, we now at the point where certain things we should start doing, particularly anticipating more use of the park.
Especially with everything opening up would be great.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. I mean, we've had tremendous use of Carnwath, and so far people seem to be doing okay, which is supposed to be home, but anyway, but we do get the complaints.
But Jim, thank you.
Sure.
Be good.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, what about one more sign here? We were talking about, and you're probably gonna finish up here, but what happened to the signs we were thinking about doing for the no motorized vehicles, things like that? I thought you were putting that
I
together.
mean, that's on here. I mean, if you want to just do that as a sign.
I think that's what we want to do, because we talked about, out on Robinson Lane in particular, we talked about that a couple weeks ago.
And some of our town properties that aren't parks, I think we also, right, some of the big parcels.
So, I mean, it would just
we
be,
should add that on the list to look at it.
Just, can you have something together for us so we can actually, because I think you even actually gave us the colors? Wasn't it like, white with a brown background or something like that?
Yeah, and then, we on that one, I mean, it would just be it would just be no motor vehicles, and then underneath, town park, no motor vehicles, and underneath it, you just put a no, I'll see what the national sign is. I didn't even think of that when we talked about it, but,
Right.
Yep.
So if you want to do that, I don't know, I'm trying to think of.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
We have a number of those that we could probably put up, so if there's something you can put together for us, it'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Get that done. Yep, is Tim still on here? Tim Moot?
I am.
Hey, talking about the signs, one of the things that I, for the board's purpose, I don't want to go into much discussion, but I asked Tim to take a look at, at the highway garage of putting together a sign shop. A shop that we could do some of our own signs, as come up, several of the other towns, I think LaGrange, Beacon, and so not towns, but cities and towns have done that and could probably manufacture, whether or not it's on aluminum blanks or something else, even cardboard or plastic or what have you, that as we look at a number of signs, that might be at least a less expensive way to approach this. And then as we get a lot of other signs that need to be taken down, repaired, or new ones put up when they're damaged. So it was a thought that I had. I don't know if we've considered that before, Bill, as far as something, a highway garage. I had talked with Mike before. He seemed to be interested and willing. It's a matter of what does that entail in the cost. But I asked him to take a look at that.
Yeah. Another advantage to that would be the time factor. We're pretty much subject to whatever the vendor can provide us as far as that goes.
The only thing that I would caution is that recent amendments to the manual on uniform traffic control devices has certain standards for what's called retroreflectivity, how the signs have to be visible at night. So there's certain materials that have to be used, and they probably should be certified. So that's the only question that I have, is that any of the signs that you make for highway purposes have to be visible at night. If they're not, there's some potential liability on the part of the town.
Right. When I looked at some of the information on the web, they do have those materials available, or in plastic, laminate, over, and so forth. So that it is out there that could be done. Purchase the basic supply and then do it. Anyway, it's a thought. I don't know if anybody on the board has it seems to me worth looking into.
And we are looking into it. Our common application is a paint booth that's more for like vehicle repair, like say at a police station. The basic components are, sprayable paint, a hood for ventilation to capture like fumes and things. So it's probably not going to be as elaborate as some of the things that. But Dick, you mentioned there might be, I think Beacon, you said had one.
Yeah, Beacon had in your new highway garage. It was actually a very nice one. It doesn't need to be all that fancy, but I know they were doing that down there and found a cost saving.
The other option would be to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Beacon to have them make our signs.
That's possible. Yes, it's a good idea. Or see who else has one. Range or somebody. I'll check around with the other supervisors in the state. The mayors. Okay, Tim, you look at it, but I'll get back to you on that. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Dick, real quick, we had talked about littering signs. I don't know if you discussed that at all during this, or if you want to talk.
I was, I mentioned littering several times, but I hadn't gotten into that because we've been running pretty long.
I didn't know if you showed my example or not. That's all.
No, I haven't done that. No. Yeah, but you don't have it with you.
I do. If you had wanted.
Well, you can just show it up on the screen, Joey. Since we've been getting a lot of complaints about littering, then.
Hold on. It's going to take a while to pull up, but I could send it to the town board if they want. I don't want to hold up any more time.
I could talk about that later because I want to move this on. We have to have things in an executive session. So.
Of course. I'll send it to the board right now.
Yeah, send it to us. It was a good idea. Okay, Jim, anything else on signs and this process? I think we try to move it along and.
Not right now. So, I'll do the separate, I'll do up I'll see if I can find something for no motor vehicles.
Yeah, get back to that for okay.
Sure.
Very good. Thank you, folks. The items 8, 9, and 10, I'm going to just postpone those discussions. It's not urgent, to our next meeting. We are, running well behind as far as the schedule. There are 2 items that I do want to discuss with you in executive session regarding legal matters. I think the other one concerning a possible appointment, we can wait till the next time too, in light of the hour here. So if nobody has any objection, then why don't we move on to the actual several resolutions that we have, then we'll reconvene an executive session, if that's okay with everyone. The first resolution just here on the agenda is Resolution 2020-111. That's the correspondence log. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Okay. Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2020-112. Resolution accepting first reduction in the security posted with the performance agreement secured by a security bond in connection with Maloney Heights subdivision. Jim, do you want to comment on that? Jim Horan? Or Barbara, whoever.
I'll do it. This is Maloney Heights subdivision, which is off of Maloney Road. They've done improvements. CPL had gone out and approved the improvements. They, put in approximately $400,000 worth of work. They had posted, the developer had posted a performance, a surety bond back in February 2019 of 621, and it's being reduced to 222. So, the standard resolution.
Any comments or questions, folks?
So,
For the motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Then, what I suggest is that we, adjourn, and then come back, to this at the end of the executive session. I send out an email to all the board, as well as Jim Horan, with that dial-in information. I don't, this is to your town email sites and Jim's law firm site. If you didn't get it, you can, Angela, I was looking on my phone to text it to you, but I couldn't find it, your number. I don't know what happened. I've had some issues with it. So I could text it to you if you don't have it on email.
Or you could just, I'm on email. I mean, I'm in my inbox. I don't see anything.
I sent it during the meeting to your town email address.
Yeah, it didn't come in yet. Oh, wait a minute. Here it is.
Okay, so that should have the number.
It's
okay?
It's in.
Okay, so then, what I'd like to do is the two items, the other item will postpone till the next time. But I have two legal issues, matters I'd like to discuss. So I'd like to have a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing those two legal issues with counsel.
I'll make a motion to accept, to enter into executive session.
Yes. There's a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, thank you, folks. So we'll log off and then dial into that other, it's not on Zoom, okay? We'll be back.
Hi, this is Angela. Hi, who's on the call? It's Angela. Trying to do that, thank you.
Joey, as the host, you can actually mute her.
Oh, I know, yeah. No, they went into their own thing. They go into their own separate thing because they don't trust Zoom.
It's another Zoom thing, or they just?
They're on Skype.
Oh, Skype.
Yeah.
Oh,
They don't
okay.
trust Zoom apparently.
And are they gonna come back and
Yes.
give resolutions and the rest of the discussion and all that stuff?
Possibly.
Okay.
It's always eventful.
Yeah, I gotta figure